good evening, everyone. My name is Ankit Mangasa. I'm working in the product like software industry for past 14 years. I'm majorly into building products. I've kind of built a lot of products, especially in Adobe and then even in the company before. So yeah, so majorly worked in the product company, like building products, discussing with customers what they need and all. Yeah, that's what defines my career so far.
All right. As you mentioned, like you have been working for 14 years. Would love to hear about your experience, especially during college time. Like, what was BTech like back in? I assume it was 2004, right? When you had graduated or joined college, I guess. So,
Right.
what was it like at that time?
It's, I mean, like college now, it looks like it was like ages ago. So, I mean, it's more than a decade I have left the college. So, but yeah, I mean, during 2004, it was a very kind of, I mean, the market is still kind of very competitive, but even at that point of time, it was a very competitive market. I missed admission. I remember like I missed admission in DTU marginally, like with my just few seats, I could not able to kind of get an admission in Delhi Technical University. And that was a big disappointment for me. But then I thought to myself that okay, I'm not dropping off any year. I'm not kind of taking any leap or something. And then I went to the to take an admission in IIT University, which was the second best in Delhi. So I thought that okay, let me kind of take what comes in, because I felt that like your learning and education matters more than your degree. So with that thought, I said that okay, I'm not dropping off. I'm not kind of losing that 1 year wherein I can earn something for myself. So I felt that okay, I'll take an admission. But then I mean, once I went into that college, I realized that there is a big lack of resources that these students from DC, like my peers from DC and IIT, were kind of enjoying a lot of other resources other than what was taught in college. So I mean, they at that point of time had an upper hand over from me, because like I was not kind of getting that much of an exposure. So at that point of time, like I realized that okay, let me kind of not hold myself back. At that point of time, like DC was very much into kind of building these all-terrain vehicles and all. So I felt that okay, I mean, when the folks over there can do it, so why can't we? And then I mean, me and my friend just thought of this, that okay, I mean, this is our dream. Like we'll be building the first all-terrain vehicle for our university. And then I mean, once we decided, then again, I mean, it was again like a roller coaster journey. We realized that okay, it's a dream that's very far off. So we had to kind of create a team for us. We had to kind of arrange funds. We had to kind of find out the raw materials at the cheapest prices. And given that, I mean, we are the first who are doing this in our university, we didn't have that kind of a support from the university or any of the sponsors, because people were too many apprehensions, like would you be able to do it, because everyone knows that you are not getting that kind of a guidance. You don't have that kind of mentors that you'll be able to do it. But I mean, yeah, I mean, we felt that we'll fight it out. We are not kind of giving up on it. We'll try to do it. And like eventually we did it. I mean, we created the first vehicle for the university, and it was showcased in the Auto Expo 2010. So that was a big achievement for me. And like this overall project, this overall journey, I mean, this overall struggle is something that was a more of a learning experience for me than the overall the curriculum, or what I was taught in the college. Like this struggle that you have to kind of succeed, you have to not give up, is I think the biggest learning that I took from my college.
And I mean, this is so much true today that ultimately, whether you belong to the world's best university or you're in a tier three college in India, ultimately everything will depend on how much hard work you can put in. Of course, we cannot say that there is a direct comparison between them in terms of like resources and probably the crowd, right, and the alumni network. You're probably getting more chances if you're in a like let's say tier one college, but at the same time you can still get chances by creating those chances for yourself by working hard. And I think that probably hasn't changed even from 2004 to I graduated in 2020 myself. So in those like one decade, that theme has still not changed. You can still get good opportunities by putting in the effort. So that's really good to know. Thank you so much, Ankit, for sharing that.
Yeah, I think I
And
see. Mhm.
yeah,
I
yeah.
see someone asking, like I did not mention the name of the college. So It's because I'm usually embarrassed to share, but it was Northern India Engineering College. It doesn't exist with that name right now. The name has also changed for that college, so it's been taken over by another someone. So that was the name of my college. Yeah, it's in Guru Gobind Singh Indraprasth University.
Yeah. Even actually, I studied from GJSIP only. So yeah,
Yeah,
but I can definitely share that I had a very similar experience. Like, not
right.
getting a lot of opportunities, I had to create on my own. But at least the
Right.
college is supportive in being able to do that. So that is
Yes.
a silver lining. But yeah, I mean, given the fact that you, did all these different really great things, especially with respect to with respect to ATV and all. So, would you mind sharing, like, how did you land your first job, and where, like, did you land, and what were you doing there initially?
So right. So I mean, now like I was one of the toppers of my college. I had this kind of a, I mean, I had this kind of a feather in my hat that I built the first vehicle for the university. But then after doing all these things, after having a very good portfolio that most of the students might want to have, I did not kind of get the placement. So the first and the second round, I did not get any placements. I kind of went into the interviews, and I just saw my fellow batchmates and like my friends getting the job offers and the offer letters, but I always came back empty-handed. But then I mean I told to myself that okay, I'm not kind of giving up this fight. I'll keep fighting for it. I'll take these disappointments as learnings, and I will kind of keep improving myself. Like I had the support of, I mean, even that I was not able to make it up to any of the companies, but I had the support of all my friends, my family, and then I had a faith in my efforts. Like I was constantly learning, I was constantly working for myself. Somehow like the success wasn't happening for me, but that's completely fine. But then like eventually, like in the third or the fourth round, this company called Grape City India came in. It was a very small company, not a big company, like probably around 300 employees at that point of time, but it was a dream company for our university. Like it only picked like two or three folks from the whole university, and like luckily I was one of them. So it was a good moment for me. Like eventually, like I cracked an offer letter. That mattered most for me. And like I joined there. I joined as an automation engineer again. Not something that I wanted to do, but again, I mean, I said to myself that okay, I'm not holding back. I'm not kind of giving up the opportunity. I'll take it up, and then maybe like let's take it up. Let's keep improving. Let's keep learning. Maybe we'll move to some other better opportunity or somewhere. But let's not kind of drop it, or let's not kind of demean any of the things that God is offering you with all your efforts that you have put in. So that was how like I got my first job. I did not kind of earn very well. Like some of my friends were kind of earning much more than me, but that's completely fine. I felt that okay, I'll be taking like what I'm being offered. That's completely fine. So yeah, that's how my career started. Not on a very good note, on a very kind of a mediocre note. Not something that most of the people would love to do, but that's completely fine. Like not doing anything is all, I mean, not doing anything is worse than kind of not taking up something. So that is
Yeah.
how like I started. Yeah.
And, like, how did that experience help you, kind of, I mean, in terms of, like, the tech stack that you're working with, how did that help you to get into Adobe? Or what was, like, your day-to-day life look like, that helped you actually get experience and then move to a really great company like Adobe from there?
So at that point of time, like it was in 2010, Adobe was the only paymaster in this whole NCR. I mean, there was no better company than Adobe. Now we have a lot of good companies like Google, Amazon, Microsoft, all have come in now. But at that point of time, I think that even like until 2018, Adobe was the only best company in the NCR. So moving into Adobe again like wasn't easy. I prepared a lot by myself. I mean at that point of time I knew about the resources and all. I had luckily like a lot of folks from Grape City were kind of going into Adobe, so I had a lot of guidance over there. But with those guidance and all, I kind of kept upgrading myself. I kept on kind of learning new technologies and enrolled in some kind of courses outside and all, to kind of upskill myself to take up this role and kind of crack the interviews and Adobe. So like nothing comes in easy. You have to prepare, you have to kind of be there to kind of crack these kind of good opportunities. And yeah, I mean it took a lot of effort, but then I mean yeah, it eventually kind of paid well. Like all the effort, all the things that I
Got it.
had put into. Yeah.
Mhm. And of course, then you worked with Adobe for quite a long time, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, you have probably worked for close to around 12 years now, right? So
Yeah.
what was the need for upskilling or transitioning from the current domain that you were in? So first, would probably want to would want like the audience would love to know what were you doing at Adobe first of all, and how did you manage your 12 years there? Probably we can discover that initially.
Right. So I was a part of majorly in the engineering excellence team, wherein I mean we were taking care of the automations and all for different kind of products. During Adobe, during my tenure at Adobe, I worked on different kind of products. I've worked like majorly. I worked on desktop products. So like I have worked on. I mean, if you kind of use Adobe Acrobat, Adobe Reader. So I mean, all the features that you use in the application, I worked on almost everything. Like all each and every feature I worked on. So and then like I worked on few mobile applications in Adobe itself, and then I mean I stepped into this web technologies world. So like for software engineers, I feel that it is very important to kind of be innovative. You need to kind of have that kind of a space wherein you are able to innovate, wherein you are able to think of new ideas. You are able to think out of the box, right? If you're not you're not getting that kind of a freedom that you are able to kind of innovate or you can do something different, it's better to kind of switch products. And that's what I consistently did. So as soon as I realized that I'm not able to kind of feel the challenge in the product or the work that I'm doing into, I either switch the feature or I kind of enhance my portfolio, taking up more features and kind of like with experience also, like your team expands and also you can kind of take more responsibilities and all. And that's how I manage my tenure at Adobe, like taking up more features, doing different kind of things, so that every day I feel those challenges. I need to kind of crack something. That's the only motivation that you have when you go to office to kind of excel in your job. So that was how I managed all my tenure during Adobe. But then, I mean, recently when I stepped into this web technologies, this was a big change for me. Like you're coming from desktop technologies, wherein I mean everything is kind of happening on the same machine, and now you are into web technologies, which is like all the REST APIs, all the databases, different kind of databases, the caches, these things like Kafka and all the queuing mechanism. So you are kind of now. I mean, I felt that earlier, like I was a part of a kind of a big, you call a big continent, wherein I mean, you are kind of associated with certain points. But now like in web technologies, I have felt like I'm stranded on an island. Like there are a lot of unknown things which are around me, and I don't have that kind of expertise for me. So that is why like I felt the need to kind of upskill myself again for the web technologies. And because like when you are very senior in a team, you don't have that you don't have that much of liberty or a lot of time to upgrade yourself. So you have to kind of very rapidly upskill yourself. And for this rapid upskilling, for rapid transformation, you need to have a systematic study plan and all the required resources.
Makes sense. And as you mentioned that, when it comes to working in a place where you're working like for 10 years, it's important to also do some kind of context switching to continuously keep yourself up to date, and of course, not get like overburdened with just one particular technology, right? And so, I mean, especially for beginners, do you have any good practices when it comes to doing context switching? Because initially, for any beginner who is just getting into college, right, usually the recommendation is that hey, you try out different type of technologies and see which one might work out for you. So how can they use this kind of ideology of like being able to do context switching?
So, like, I mean, unless you kind of have a taste of anything, you cannot judge. Like, I mean, unless you kind of taste it, you cannot tell it whether you like it or not. So, one thing is definitely like do something on the technologies. If you are not kind of getting, I mean, if you are interested in some kind of a technology, but you are not getting enough opportunities to work on it, try some open source projects. Try building something on your own. I mean, try your hands on that technology. Now maybe it would turn out that you really like the technologies. In that case, like there are enormous opportunities, like I mean within the company itself, You can kind of tell your managers, tell your team members, or kind of look out with the, and today like most of the companies are very kind of open if you want to kind of change your team and all. So talk to your managers, talk to your peers, and check out like if they have the openings in their team, you can kind of definitely move to those teams. And if there are not enough opportunities in your organization, like look for inorganic growth. I mean, that's completely fine. You can look out to the other companies and all. Like it's ultimately your career. You want to kind of, it's like nobody would drive it more than yourself. So think about it. If you are not liking something, think of kind of switching to something which you really like. And
Yeah.
for that, like try it out. If it really is something that's enticing you, make efforts to kind of move into that direction, because ultimately like if you are kind of doing what you're liking, only then you'll be able to succeed.
Makes sense. And so, I mean, coming to the point of like what motivated you to take that leap of probably leaving, like, a job where you were probably at a comfortable, like, spot because you had been working for 10 years and you wanted to switch to a completely different domain. So, what prompted you or what motivated you to do that?
So right, so I mean, frankly, like for me, when I was working on this one of this mobile project, I got introduced to these web technologies, like all these REST APIs and all, and that is where I realized. I mean, like at that point of time, I started reading about these technologies, all the kind of different databases and all. I mean, ACID was something that we read when we were in college, and now there's a different concept called Base, which has kind of come up with the NoSQL. So I was very interested in these type of technologies. I studied them for around 6 months or so. I tried making some things on my own, and that's when I realized that okay, this is something that I want to work on. And like in Adobe, like I mean, luckily I was in a company which is very welcoming if you want to kind of move into different kind of technologies or something. So at that point of time, like I said to my manager that okay, and I want to kind of work in these technologies and all. And I mean, I luckily got opportunity in fact like multiple opportunities to move into that domain. So that was where, I mean, again, like as I said, like I came to know about this technology. I tried exploring these technologies on my own. I tried created something on my own. I talked to my friends, I talked to my peers, I talked to my managers and all, to kind of learn more about the technologies. I evaluated all the pros and cons if I move in, like where I want to see myself in the next 10 years, what all I need to learn, like how difficult or how easy the path would be for me, right? Even like
Yeah.
I mean, not just for yourself, think talk to your family as well, because if you are taking such type of risk, even your whole family should be supported for you, right? Because ultimately it's a big risk that you are taking. So like everything was kind of done one by one. Once I figured out that all the blocks are in the right places, then I said that okay, let me take this move. And then
Okay.
eventually like I moved. Yeah.
And then how did you find Scalar during all of this transitioning? Uh, yeah, I would love to hear about that story as well.
Right. So Scalar, I came to know about from one of my friend who, I mean, he was my neighbor also. So he was working on embedded systems, and he was working in Samsung Technologies. So he told me that he and a lot of his colleagues are kind of enrolled in Scalar, and he said that why don't, I mean, if you are struggling in this domain, why don't you also try it? Because they are really doing very good job in these technologies, and I mean, people are learning very well, they are doing very well after kind of taking up these courses. So that's how like I got to know about Scalar. And like luckily, I mean, for me it was like within 6 days I got enrolled in Scalar. Like I didn't kind of think much about it, because like if it is coming from one of your close friends, there is no doubt about it. I mean, why would your friend why would one of your closest friend try to betray you? So within
Yeah.
6 days, like within the next 6 days, like I mean, today I got to know about it. After a day after tomorrow I got my exam, and then the interview and all, I paid the fees, and like after 6 days I started my learning. It was really quick for me.
Okay. All right. And do you also find any other alternatives to what Scalar had to offer during your discovery phase?
Right. So, like I mean, I transitioned into web technology, so I had to kind of do a lot of learning for myself and all. And that point of
Yeah.
time, I was looking at the YouTube videos. So YouTube is kind
Mhm.
of the biggest content source today. I mean, at that point of time, like while I was in college, you didn't have that kind of an exposure. But today, like if you want to kind of learn anything, you can do it. Definitely, you can do it on your own. and then like for coding and all, you have those lead codes, Stack Overflow for kind of whenever you're stuck. But then like when I was kind of pursuing all these different kind of alternatives, I felt that what I'm doing is just an unstructured learning. Like today I'm studying A, and then tomorrow I'm studying T, and then day after tomorrow I'm studying E. So it's, I mean, ideally your learning journey should always be like A to B, B to C, C to Z, and eventually from Y to Z. But then for me it was like a completely haphazard kind of a flow, wherein today I'm learning something, tomorrow I'm not learning something, maybe like in the next 5 days I'm not even learning anything, because like it is very difficult to maintain the rhythm, because there's no one to kind of push you, no one to kind of motivate you. You don't have that kind of a check marks for yourself, or those deadlines when you will be completing something. So it is just like I mean, doing something, if I like I'll do it, if I don't like I'll not do it. And then I mean, I, for example, for the same concept, I had these four different resources. I had to figure out myself which is the best resource for among these four. Probably at that point of time I would like go over all the four courses itself. So like I'm also wasting my time at that point of time because of like all these scattered courses, all these scattered learning content and all.
Yeah. Correct. And oh yeah, I mean, first of all, like, thank you so much for sharing that. In terms of, like, the importance of, like, structured learning and how much that can save you time and make it much more efficient for you. So apart from that, like, probably a, like, very curious question is that why did you then end up choosing Scalar? Because you're already working like, a tech giant like Adobe, and it's like a dream for so many people to be able to even get into a company like Adobe. So, and because, like, you were also in a senior role, so would love to know your thought process and how did that kind of finally come together and made you join.
Right. So, I mean, like when you are at such a senior position, I mean, you have a lot of apprehensions in going into that learning
Yeah,
phase again, because it's always like, I mean, you are the Shah Rukh Khan of the Mehuna, which is like the oldest person in your class, and you don't know
yeah,
like what the other folks will tell. But then that's completely fine. I knew that. I mean, I didn't care about like who are the other folks in my batch or what, and what the other people will say, what my family will say. Like you're going for pursuing something after 14 years. That's completely fine. I knew my motive, that I wanted to upskill myself. I wanted to excel on the challenges that I'm taking up. I wanted to kind of have a rapid and a structured learning process for myself, because I knew that I don't have that kind of that much of time when wherein I mean I can kind of have ample amount of time, and I can keep spending it until I don't find those kind of myself at that kind of a position wherein I know that now I am in a very good situation. So that kind of liberty was not with me, because I was working in a senior position.
yeah,
Moreover, like when I joined this Scalar, I knew that it's a risk with a guarantee, because like if I don't like the program, I can quit it. Like if there is a there is a period wherein if I don't feel that that's the right course for me, I can kind of quit it. So that was an assurance that even Scalar gave me. So that was fine. Like my money is kind of in secure hands for now. But then like when I entered Scalar, I found that I mean it is a commendable kind of a community. I mean it is such an amazing community wherein like so many people are learning together, they are sharing their learnings. I mean like if you talk about the Slack channel of the internal Slack channel for the learners, it is kind of a gold mine of all of information. So wherein I mean everyone is kind of motivating each other, the community is kind of helping each other to kind of get opportunities in their organizations. The TAs, the mentors, the instructors were one of the best that are available in the market, and kind of they are also kind of readily available on Slack. They're kind of replying all your queries and all. I mean, everyone is kind of so readily available to help you out to make you succeed. Moreover, like not just about this community itself, the different kind of challenges that Scalar was coming up with, like this 100-day streak challenge, the lead code problem solving challenge. There are
yeah,
GitHub competitions that come in, so they kind of always keep you motivated. They make sure that you are not kind of breaking up your consistency, you're not kind of stepping out of this bandwagon of learning. You're always kind of learning consistently all through the process. So like I mean it is just an awesome community. It is just a humble environment wherein anyone can approach anyone if he wants to succeed, if he wants to learn something new. And not just these folks, even the founders, they are also kind of readily available. If you want, if you have any concern, if you need any help, even you can approach the founders directly. So that's the beauty of Scalar. Like each and everyone is kind of approachable in this whole community.
Yeah, that's like definitely true, and especially when it comes to the power of communities and how communities can really impact you. That's
Right.
what is missing when you are probably on a single journey. And it's not that if you
Right.
are doing your learning individually, you're bound to fail. You can get success, but probably if you're in a part of a good community, you accelerate your learning much faster than
Exactly.
if you were doing it on your own. So that's definitely true. And yeah, I would love to know some of your recent experiences, because after having spent all this time, what were and how were the interviews for some of the FANG companies and big companies like Salesforce, Adobe that you gave recently. Would you mind sharing about that interview experience and how was that for you? How was it for you?
Right. So I mean, luckily for me, like maybe like I mean, I was one of the most luckiest guy, or maybe like each and everyone in Scalar is, because I mean the instructors and all are kind of so good. So I was able to kind of crack most of the companies. I would say like close to 80% of the companies I appeared for. I had kind of multiple offers from different companies when I kind of started giving my interviews. So and it kind of gave interviews for different kind of roles, for the engineering leadership as well, senior engineering, senior IC roles as well. So I kind of gave multiple interviews for different kind of positions. So I mean interviews in these companies are actually very tough, so they are not very easy to crack, but again, like it is not very impossible to crack these interviews. It's only the only thing that you need is the right set of tools for cracking these interviews. So you need to have the correct understanding of the structure and the expectation from the interview. So it's better, like first of all, like you should talk to the alumni or the people who have recently given the interview. That was a really helpful thing for me, because in Scalar, like you get a lot of people with whom you can discuss your interview experiences and all. And even like you can have some kind of a mock interviews wherein you are actually interviewing with people from that organization itself, who kind of help you to kind of make you understand that what's the expectation. Moreover, like discuss with the recruiter as well, because the recruiter has a lot of ideas that what would be the expectation from the interview. So be very specific with the, I mean, be very elaborate with the recruiter that what exactly is expected from you in this interview. Then after that, like another very important thing is like develop the skills for identifying the intuitions for solving problems. So I know I have come across people who say that they have solved like 500 problems on lead code, 750 problems on lead code, and still they are not able to kind of crack the interviews. So that's majorly because it isn't the quantity that matters, it's the quality that matters. Like how well you have solved the problem. Like say if you have solved those 750 problems, if the 751st problem comes in, would you be able to relate to one of those 750 problems that you have already solved? So that's called identifying the intuition for the problem. So that's really important, like which concept you need to apply. So that's a very good thing that I learned in Skinner, because it's like here is a checklist for these for this concept. If this applies, go for this concept. If this doesn't apply, try out these four checklists. If this applies, that I mean that's the way that you learn in Scalar. Like for each and every concept, you get to know that okay, these are the checklists, you need to be aware of this if you want to kind of crack. And moreover, like when you have only 15-20 minutes, you cannot just go around and kind of think about the problem for the next 10-15 minutes. You're expected to kind of solve it in 20 minutes. So these set of tools are very important for you. Next is like very precisely understand what's important and what's not when you're discussing your ideas with the interviewer, right? Because you might be putting up certain questions thinking that okay, I'm putting certain questions, and the interview might think that, oh, okay, this is such a bright person that he's asking so many questions. But that doesn't defines whether you are bright, whether you are dumb or smart. Because the right set of questions is really important, because if you're just kind of hanging around and kind of just asking some random questions, you'll be kind of tagged as a dumb candidate, and then nobody wants to kind of like hire those dumb candidates. So ask very smart questions, be very specific, understand what is expected from you, and then develop the right set of intuition so that you are able to kind of crack the problems in the stipulated amount of time. That's really important. That are, I think, the key learnings for me from all these interviews, and like some of things that I've learned in the Scalar journey as well, that have helped me to kind of crack these interviews.
No, no, I mean, it makes complete sense. And of course, like, each and every interview experience makes you learn something. Because even I, like, when I was in my fourth year, I was also not really great at like district algorithms. So I was not like getting really great places like which I was applying for, like FANG and all. So, but like for me, hackathons were a really great way for being able to, like, get some good product based startup opportunities. And that's how I was, and of course, like, the community. So getting, like, having the relevant connections,
Right.
because ultimately it kind of depends on whether either you have like a good company like, let's say Adobe or Microsoft or such kind of companies where you are getting mentored from, like, really experienced folks, or you're working on a young startup, but still you need to get like, mentorships so that you can grow in your career. So yeah, I mean, those you can definitely get with by having a good community around you, because they can always, like, the company folks can always recommend you or potentially even hire you if some of them
Right.
grow bigger. So
Right.
that's really great to know.
I
And
mean, that's the good part from Scalar itself. Like now, I mean, I get calls from my friends and all who is like that. Can you refer me into this company and you can refer to me in this company? And I feel that this Scalar community, which is like more than 25,000 folks now, are kind of spread all across the globe. So I am now a part of those people who, if want a referral in any of the countries, say in Ireland or Germany or London or Amsterdam or like anywhere in India. So I know like people who are kind of working there and who can kind of readily kind of refer me when I want to kind of move into those organizations. So that's part of the community. Like community is really powerful. You need to have strong bonds with the people. You need to kind of do a lot of networking. Like Scalar is not just about learning, it's learning plus networking. That's what I realized after joining Scalar.
the first one was that what are the prerequisites required for becoming a computer scientist in Adobe?
So for becoming a computer scientist, so I mean, like the expectation is that until you are kind of interviewing for MTS one and MTS two, you need to be good with algorithms. But when you are kind of appearing for a computer scientist, you need to have a good understanding of the design. I mean, design like computer scientist is about kind of designing and everything. So it's not just about of executing your code. So you need to kind of design. You need to kind of own a team as well. So that is the major difference between like when you I mean when you come into this computer scientist role and then move ahead in the ladder.
Yeah, makes sense. And then the next one that we have is that you're already working at Adobe for 10 years. I think we have probably already covered that why did you Scalar? Uh,
Right.
and are you still at Adobe?
I'm not still at Adobe. I'm currently unemployed. As I said, like I have a lot of good opportunities. I have one of the Mang offers as well. So just figuring out like wherein I'll be joining. So
Yeah.
currently like just enjoying my break. I mean after 12 years, so I've been unemployed. So I'm enjoying this time as well.
There's a question by Vinay who asks, like, what tips can you suggest for people who are good at coding, performing good in Scalar, but do not have a graduation degree?
Certain companies wherein you don't even I mean they're not kind of showing the your resume to the company. All they're showing is what kind of learning you are pursuing, how good you are with your learnings, with your assignments, how well you have done in your mock interviews. I don't remember the exact name of the program, maybe like Shiva, you know that. So that those are the kind of things. So I mean Scalar is kind of transforming this whole industry. So earlier it was all about degree, but Scalar has kind of told this industry that it's learning and kind of knowledge is what matters more than degree. So I would say like if you are enrolled in Scalar, don't worry about that part. Just keep just one of my friend like keep saying it that like it's a dialogue from Three Idiots. So he said it like PSP के पीछे भागो और सक्सेस तो अपने आप जो है पीछे आ जाएगा. So PSP is like problem solving percentage. Keep maintaining it, keep doing your mock interviews well and all, and you'll eventually kind of succeed. Like there's no one stopping you.
Yeah. And then we have a very interesting question by Suresh, that do you think switching from a quality analyst to a software development role at top companies after 12 to 13 years of experience is possible? And if so, how should one prepare for this kind of a transition? Because I think, like, at least in your case, since you're still working with, like, let's say, programming languages and development in terms of, like, computer science development for desktop applications, it was still a huge change. But probably someone coming in from a QA background might even be a bigger jump as compared. So, have you come
See,
across certain such kind of scenarios of people, experienced people doing that jump?
See, it's definitely possible. Like nothing is kind of
Mm.
impossible. It's all. I mean, it's all ultimately your hard work. So one is like have the right set of guidance, have the right set of mentors, have the right set of learnings. Apart from that, like start working on building some kind of a project. So like I mean, in Scalar, you kind of build some project towards the end of your journey. Like so, you can start building up your small project. So while I was doing in the Scalar, I started this initiative of collaborative learning, wherein kind of 3 or 4 people kind of joined in and they started building some kind of a prototype. So we built up something on Kafka and also, right? So start doing all these things. Eventually, like once you are kind of done with all these technology, I mean, ultimately the developer is also doing all these things only, like they're building code. And if you have that kind of an experience where you have built some demo projects for yourself, and then you have kind of learned all these technologies, like no one can stop you to make this transition.
Makes sense. And I think, like, again, mostly it's related to that you have to keep yourself up to date. It's not that you can just stay in the realms
Exactly.
of your job. You have
Right,
to put in
right,
the
right.
effort outside of it. Yeah.
Right. So like I mean, this web technologies, like this whole terrain of web technologies evolves very rapidly. So you need to know like what are the new tools that are coming, and you need to kind of be abreast on all these technologies, all these tools. That's really important in this domain.
And then the next question is by Sam. I'm not entirely sure what this short form means, but can you give us some tips to crack OAs of good PVCs?
Ways of good PBCs. I don't know like PBC, what exactly is PBC,
Yeah,
but always I think the online examination, the online
online
assessment
examination or
that's given it,
analysis.
right? So can you give good tips to crack? So as far as I know, like being at a senior position, I did not get a kind of get an opportunity to do a lot of OAs, but I know like what is usually asked in OAs. So it's like you need to kind of do a couple of programming questions, then there are some debugging questions, there are some language questions. This is all kind of that defines the OS. So again, like for the programming questions, learn a lot about okay product based companies. So for the programming questions, learn a lot about the programming internal. So like a language internal module is something that we call in Scalar. So that's really important for those language problems. For the debugging part, you have to kind of develop these kind of skills. Just start writing code, start practicing code on IDEs, try how to debug and all. And eventually, like once you have that kind of an understanding, you will be able to kind of debug the code. Again, the part for module, the programming internal modules is very effective in that part, because programming internals tell you like what's an array list, so wherein the null pointer exception will come in, wherein it won't. So all these kind of things, I mean, like for the debugging questions, mostly they are googlies, wherein they'll give you certain options, but then there will be an option for the compile time error and all. And mostly like exceptions are something that, I mean, like 50% of the chances the answer is an exception. So you need to know from the programming internal modules whether it will result in an exception or an actual answer. So that's majorly important. And then like yeah, the way I said it, like the developing the intuition for the programming questions is really important. Apart from that, like debugging and programming internals, like mostly, I mean, these are the pieces that you come to know, that you need to know. So if I mean, if you
Yeah,
are kind of enrolled in Scalar, it's the module number 2 and 3 that you need to know of for cracking the ways.
makes sense. Okay, so the next question is, yeah, I think, yeah, this one is already done. Uh, did you join the academy course or DSML?
I joined the academy course. When I joined Scalar, there was only academy course. DSML has recently started, like some months back or so.
Yeah. And then we can probably take up this question that I am a current fourth year student and I got placed in Cape Gemini as an analyst. If we remove the money motivation, what are the things that excite me as I'm a civil engineering student?
So like money and money is definitely not the only part. So when you are working on a product company, you're not kind of working for a client. So you're not building up something for someone, right? You're kind of building something that kind of touches like a lot of, like for example, like I was a part of the team which kind of build Adobe Acrobat and Adobe Reader, and now I can proudly say that I created a product which kind of deals, I mean, which is used by millions of users every day, right? I was a part of the Adobe Scan app, which is kind of used now today to I mean, that app has now created more than 1 billion documents in the world now. So that's the kind of pride that comes in, and these are the things that you can definitely, I mean, list in your resume. Like you're part of such great teams, you're working with such best, I mean, such a I mean, like it's also about like working with the best people in the industry, and you'll find most of the good people who are the, I mean, one of the best brains in this product companies, because it's always kind of difficult to crack product companies as compared to services companies. So yeah, I mean, like if you are kind of looking for more challenging work, if you are kind of wanting to kind of make an impact, you want to kind of touch a lot more lives, then like product company is somewhere I think you should be in. It's not just about the money. Definitely, like money and all are kind of the byproduct of these things. The growth, overall the growth is kind of completely different in your working in product companies and when you're working in the services company. So yeah, I mean, like if you know about the Amazon two pizzas also, no team is kind of bigger than a team which can kind of accommodate, which kind of can be accommodated in two pizzas. So it's like you will hardly have at any point of time, you'll hardly have 10 to 14 people, but then those 14 people are one of the best in the industry. That's a major difference.
The next question is by Abhishek. He's asking, I do like programming in general and want to venture into competitive programming. So, what is the scope of a competitive programmer in IT, and what are the interesting domains that I can explore?
So, competitive programming, I think, is more into these companies like Tower Research, and also I have interviewed with many companies, but I haven't come across with companies which are asking a lot of competitive programming. But like, I mean, if this is something that entices you, like do a lot of research. I think that companies which are mainly into the financial domain, like this Tower Research, D Shaw, and RCM and all, look at their portfolios, what they are offering, what they want. Probably I think those are the companies which you should be targeting if you are kind of wanting to kind of be in touch with this competitive programming. Other than
Yeah.
that, it's mostly about the understanding of the web technologies and kind of building the best web technology based products.
Yeah, and I feel like especially when you're in like the quant space, like that's where you're like dealing with
Right,
and
right, right,
probably very niche use cases which still are pretty important, where you would want to improve like the search results of Google by a fraction of a second. That's where
right,
those kind
right,
of skill
right,
sets you can use.
right,
Um,
right, right, right. Right. I
yeah.
mean, yeah, I mean, wherein, I mean, numbers matter more. You'll
Mhm.
be kind of getting opportunities in those domains, those companies.
Who is asking how were your DSA skills before the course, and how much time does it take to crack a good product-based company if you're practicing daily?
So my DSS skills were kind of limited to arrays. I was really good at arrays, but not beyond that. Like trees, graphs, these were kind of my bad areas. Trees, graphs, and DP was something that I totally hate. I mean, DP was a complete nightmare for me. So like strings and arrays was all wherein my DSA ended. Like I didn't kind of think of going beyond. Like when you're taking interviews, you know about certain questions, you only ask those set of questions, you know about all the alternative kind of solutions and all. But you don't know kind of, I mean, you don't have the kind of a complete good understanding of the concept of the whole idea, like how this data structure is designed and all. So yeah.
Makes sense. And then
Acha,
the next
and how
question.
much time does it take to crack a good product-based company if you are practicing daily? So it depends upon like how well you are practicing, like how structured your learning is. You can take like 5 years if you're not doing a good kind of if you're not kind of pursuing the right path. It would kind of take years to do it. If you kind of do it well, like it would hardly takes like 6 months to kind of crack the
Yeah.
data structure rounds.
Mhm. And on a similar note, like there's a question: how did you manage time with work, professional, and also attending scalar curriculum? That's an
So
interesting
that's
question. Like, how?
right, right. So that's one of the most difficult part. So I mean, you have your office work, and then you have the classes from 9 to 11:30. Mostly like they stretch until 12. So initially, like when I joined a scaler, I was like one of the persons who kind of told a scaler that there should be some kind of a time management skills and sessions on time management and kind of handling this overwhelming stress and all. So this is something that scaler should also do. But ultimately, like it took me a couple of months or so to kind of get accustomed to this new environment. Like I enrolled from intermediate. I did not kind of go to the advanced because advanced would be a very fast paced thing. So I thought that okay, let me be in the intermediate and kind of get accustomed to this whole journey, to this whole new fashion of kind of learning. And then like in like 1 or 2 months, I got conveniently kind of settled in this new environment. So all I did was that I started my day at a close to 9. I used to end my office at around 6 or 7, and then I used to take a break of like 2 hours, and then I kind of went on to the classes like 9 to 11:30 to 12 was my classes. Maybe like I spent around like I always try to kind of spend my time until 1:30 for learning for myself. On the other days when I didn't have the classes, I started my studies at 9. Like 9 was something that I know that either I have a class or I don't have a class, I'll have to study. So
Yeah.
at 9, in a kind of a disciplined manner, I sat for my studies. I studied until 1:30 in the evenings, and that's how, yeah, I managed.
Um, and then probably one final question that we can take is, what is the best way to create notes on DSA? Are as there are many different questions being covered.
So like frankly, I mean, for me, like I didn't create any notes on DSA. I only kind of so once I had my class, I again went back to a class. I mean, I again kind of reviewed the classes 2x, and then during that point of time, I referred to the notes that were shared by the instructor. So I referred those notes. I referred the class, and then like now even like today, because I've seen those notes and referred to the class for two or twice or thrice. So I know like if I just, I mean, now today if I just refer to those notes, I understand like okay, what is the flow, what is he trying to do. So frankly, like I did not make any notes for myself. I only practiced coding. I did a lot of coding on the Scalar platform. I did a coding on Interview Bit as well, and then I solved a lot of programs and lead code as well. So that was how like I did myself. So rather than kind of creating notes, I kind of focus more on solving problems, but notes were something that were already shared by my instructors.
Okay. How did you find accuracy while solving questions? I always feel I miss some edge cases or one-off errors. That's a very
So
interesting question.
right. So I mean, luckily, like during my learning, like during the course that I pursued, like how the concepts were taught, we were also told about like what are the edge cases and all that you need to handle, because ultimately, like they are preparing you to kind of crack man companies, right? And man companies don't expect you to kind of leave all those edge cases. So all the edge cases that can be in your code, they kind of explain you like what are the cases that you need to handle. Moreover, like they also kind of tell you like the technique. For example, like in the list, in the link list, right? In the link list, right, there's a possibility that you will not be able to kind of handle the head well, right? So why don't you create a dummy node in the head and then kind of start from that dummy node? So for example, like when you're returning, just return the next of the dummy node, or those kind of things, right? So all these kind of techniques are told to you in the kind of in the course itself. Your mentor, your instructors would kind of keep prodding you all these notes, and then all you need to do is kind of uh, very cautiously take a note of all these things. That will help you to kind of handle all the edge cases. There's nothing like you need to do beyond what is taught. So everything is kind of covered well. All and moreover, like once you submit the solutions, it is evaluated on a lot of different test cases, which also includes all these test cases. So when you are solving them, you will also kind of get to know like what is the case that you're always missing. So for example, like during modulo, a lot of people kind of miss on adding the modulo as well because of the numbers going into the negative value, right? So you will kind of face this kind of a problem like tens and twenties of times. So you will eventually kind of know that okay, this is something that I always kind of need to handle.
Yeah. And like, were there times when you felt overburdened, especially like in a full-time job and then 3 to 4 hours studying? And how
Right.
did you overcome those kind of feelings?
Like I mean, I'll frankly tell you, like I had a very strong bond. So I mean, we were a kind of we were five friends, very close knit kind of friends, and we kind of always motivated each other. There were good and bad times for all of us, but then I mean, this bond was created in Scalar itself. This bond of five people, and I mean,
Yeah.
it's one of the most popular in Scalar as well. So we kind of kept motivating each other. We made sure that nobody is kind of lagging behind. If somebody is kind of is not in a bad situation or not, and we always kind of took the update like how are the things, what's happening and all. And I mean,
Mhm.
So yeah, I mean, Akshay is mentioning he is one of them. So yeah, I mean, we kept motivating each other. We made sure that nobody is kind of lagging behind. That's the only way. I mean, friends are there for you, so
That's
they
truly it.
they
Yeah,
help me. Yeah,
that's definitely true.
yeah,
And these bonds are what, like, probably more important than your learning journey because they help you.
right,
So yeah.
right. And the one very strange thing is that we haven't met each other in person yet.
Oh
So
wow.
we are yet to meet.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we are very closely knit. So yeah,
Hi Manal and hi everyone. So I'm a 2019 graduate and like I graduated. I started working at Nagaro since I was with IIT college and I got my first job as an optometrist job. So I started working at Nagaro and after that like I've been switched to three different companies. So currently I'm with Make My Trip and after Nagaro I joined a firm called Kinesu Labs, which is a startup in New Delhi, and I've been associate Make My Day for the past 1.5 years. And here I joined as a software engineer, and I've been working like I'm taking care of this authentication and streak microservice in the backend. So that's what I do. And I recently got promoted, so I'm a senior software engineer one right now. And as per scale is concerned, so I am one of the like students of the first batch of Scale Up, which started in April 2019. But like I started in April 2019, but my first job was also in the same year. So due to my first job, I was not able to cope up with the course and like not able to attend properly the course and curriculum at that point of time. So as a result of that, I had just like 40% problem solving by the end of the year. So I was not able to make fruitful outcome out of the course. So I had to rejoin skill in April 2020. And by the end of the year in April 2021, I was able to like make my problem solving around 70%. And so I was able to give around 20, 25 interviews, and out of which I was able to crack offers from six of them. And since I was very much interested to work on backend and Python, right, and make my day was like more than happy to take me in for that, like try me out at that point of time. So that's why I joined Make. Like that's pretty much about me, man. So that's
Right,
what I
right.
do.
So, as you mentioned that you have given around 25 to 30 interviews.
Yeah.
So, I'll be asking
Mhm.
about that. How were those interview experiences like? I mean, what actually did you learn from those interviews? And can you share something about those interviews with our viewers so that they can get an idea of how actually the interviews in product based companies are taken out?
Right. So like even like few months back, I am on the other side of the table. So now I take round on interviews of Make My Dip, right? So now I understand like what are the people's like what does the interview actually look for. So to be honest, like when I take an interview, I just expect the candidate to be very much out loud, like whatever he's thinking, if he is able to like explain it to me, then it may make sense because when you're working in a team, right, you can't just say mom. And even if you're a good problem solver, that wouldn't be suffice for me because I don't need someone who just solves the problem. I need someone who can communicate to the whole team and like contribute to the whole team, right? So that's what we like. I expect from my interviews, and I think that's what being happened with me as well. A lot of times I have in the starting of the interviews that I got from Scalar, right? So I was not able to clear the rounds. I think the reason was that, but when I get the problem, I start to solve it right away instead of thinking it through like how to move forward and what all things to be taken care of. So I think that was the mistake that I did. But eventually, I was getting realization like what I did wrong. And after talking to seniors like Abhimanyu there and other skiller people, so I understand like what went wrong over there. So I think that's kind of learning that I got over a period of time. So yeah, that's how the interview went. So by the time I got offer from Week Market, I was in a pretty good state to crack any interview, I guess, at least in the DSC level and a bit of system level as well.
What do you think that what actually is the most important? What are the most important skills that a particular recruiter will look in you? Like there is DSA, there is system design, but other
Mhm,
than that, what qualities should an engineer, a software engineer, should have so
mhm.
that he can create a very good impact on the interview?
Yeah, but you should be a very good communicator, I guess. And by communication, I doesn't mean you have to be good English speaking, right? Communication, according to me, means you should be able to make the other person understand what you are thinking. And like if you make it as seamless as possible, then you makes a good impression to him. So like when you actually work with him under a team, so it's all about matter of the way you communicate, right? If you are discussing on single topic and if it's taking more than the specified time it should take, then you are not a good communicator, right? So if there is something so small as the small line thing and you are not able to make him understand why that all online change is there, so then you are not a good communicator. So that's what most of the recruiters look for on top priority basis. Apart from that, if we go on the technical level, so the most of the issue that I found recently at most of the people is like they think the way we code at other platforms, that's how we have to do in the interview as well. But it's not like that. You are not gonna trying to solve a problem for any platform, or not trying to solve just for getting selected, right? If you are trying to write a code using variables like IGK, right, without any understandable variables at some online system, then it's fine because no one's gonna read that code. But when you are writing in an interview or when you are writing in a system in an industry, then that code gonna be read by a lot of people, by you and maybe who comes in the future as well. So the way you write code matters a lot over there, right? So like that also plays a crucial role in getting selected. So like there are a lot of events happened when like my code was not that great, but my code was not working enough, but like it still, since it was very descriptive and easy to understand without any external comments, so they got impressed because of that.
Right. So
Yeah.
basically, if I sum this up, so other than the technical skills like DSS system design or development, people should also consider the time. People should be precise and they should be a good communicator. Right. So these are
Right.
actually the other qualities that you mentioned that a person should possess. Right. So yes, that was great. So what next I will ask you is that basically I will ask you just about journey that before Scalar, what were you doing, and why did you feel like you need to upskill yourself, and then you chose Scalar as the platform that will help you to upskill?
So like when okay, so when I was in my college, like we already knew that there is something called DSA that is being required with all this FANG organization, and I think everyone at this point of time, everyone knows what FANG is, right? At least the engineers know about it, and everyone wishes to work over there, right? Like Google, it will be Google, it will be Amazon. So they pretty much know that they need to learn DSA for that. But the issue that we have with our current learning materials, right? Like it is a lot of them, and plus we don't know how to use it, right? So when I started, like when I think, okay, I need to learn DSA, so I started solving array questions back to back. But solving 100 questions on a topic and all that like easy level will not be helpful. That will just satisfy your temporary happiness, and it will give you some kind of dopamine effect. Okay, you have done something, but in reality, it hasn't helped you at all because you already in a very good state to solve that question, right? So that wouldn't be that great. So I think that's how I able to understand. Like even I was able to practice a lot, I'm not able to crack offers more than four or something like that. When I haven't joined Scalar, right? So when I was my college in the last year, I think I cracked nearly all of the service organizations that we have, like Wipro, Infosys. I got offers from all them, but obviously I thought that is pretty easy to crack. When I am targeting something around organization like Nine Leaves and others, I was not able to get into it because I was not able to meet their expectation at that point of time, right? So then it hit me that I'm just doing what I know already, and like getting better what I know will not lead me anywhere, right? So that's how I found out that I need to work on my DSA skills. And while looking for something like that, I encountered that there is a site called Interbate, and they are launching this boot camp. Luckily, in the same month when I was looking for something like that, I found Interbate, and that's how I gave the test for Interbate Academy. And luckily, out of four of my friends, I and my other friend got selected. So that's how I joined Scale Academy in the first place.
Great, great. So basically, the road to technical interviews is considered very tough. So, what are actually the hurdles or the problems that you faced while you were preparing, and how did you overcome? How did you basically overcome them? So there must be some
Okay.
problems that you face, right? There must be some topics or there must be some areas where you were lagging. So how did you
Mhm.
overcome that? How do you keep yourself? How did you keep yourself motivated to go through this road?
Right. So yeah, I know what I'm trying to like. What is my goal is, right? So I wanted to work at a PBC firm because I've already worked at a service base, and I had an exposure. Like I was getting going through an exposure of startup. So I knew that I need next phase, and I need to work at a better place where I could learn and gather some core software engineering skills, right? So for that, I was preparing for, right? So while doing that, I was a part of Skill Academy as well. So obviously, when I was seeing any new topic or any new DSA thing, right? It it really it makes you to fear that it will be very difficult to understand, and obviously it's not gonna be easy for sure. But what makes you to overcome that is like the final thing that you want to achieve. So if you're clear on that part, why you started this, then you can do it. And obviously, it's not going to happen in a day. It's not going to happen in twice a day. But you have to stay personal with it till the time it gets completed, right? So like I have spent more than a day on a single question as well. I have seen that days as well, and I've seen the days where I have solved more than 10 questions within a day as well. So that's how it went. So I think just staying persistent with the problem till it gets solved or till you are able to figure out something out of it. I think that is a way to reach that place.
Right. That's great. So basically, you wanted to switch from a service-based company to a product-based company. So how did
Right.
that transition happen? And what actually are the things that people should know about getting into these product-based companies? How the interviews are different, and basically, can you just elaborate upon how did you manage to upskill yourself? How did you manage to basically gain those skills that actually
Mhm.
are needed in the product-based companies to get through them?
Right, sure. So when I started giving interviews to Scaler, right? So I encountered the process. So I think I got my first interview at Amazon, and they had this first round. So I was able to clear the online assessment because already started preparing for DSA a bit. So I was able to clear the online assessment. But when I went through the first face-to-face round, that's when the I found the real challenge because it's not just about solving the problem; it's about making the interviewer impressed in that particular time frame and by solving the problem as well, right? So it's part of both the things are part of it. So you have to solve the problem plus you have to make him impressed, and there is time limits for sure. So matlab, it's not like if you have solved the problem, solved a single problem in the 1 hour span, you're gonna get selected. Matlab, that's what I thought actually when I was able to solve the problem. I thought, okay, I've done it. Now I'm gonna going for the second one. But when they announced the result that I'm not going forward, then I tried to reach them for the feedback, and then they told like you were able to do it, but you were halfway through. Like you were able to solve only one problem at a time, and we were expecting at least two of them. So that was like cut off, right? So I think that made me realize that I need to solve the problems. I need to be good at problem solving for sure, but I need to make my time like I need to increase my speed as well. So then I started working on it, and when Make My Trip interview happened, so they were mostly GSA based and plus system design a bit to us over there. So they try to ask you, like they try to give you a scenario which may be existing already in the world, or maybe it won't, and they try to judge how you gonna build something on your own if you were responsible to design the whole system or some feature that we're talking about. So that's how like, and then started learning over there, preparing for the same. And in the end, if you are able to convince that you are taking a logical decisions over a period of time, so you are in.
Right.
Yeah.
So just one more question I'll ask you that let's put an end to this debate that
Mm-hmm.
in social media you're active, in LinkedIn you're active. So you must have seen these
Mm-hmm.
debates going on that should we do competitive programming, should we do just DSA, should we do
Okay.
just dev. So what is your take on
Mm-hmm.
this? That what actually are the areas that a candidate who is trying to get into a product-based company should focus on first?
Right. So yeah, if you're saying that is what area should a candidate focus for produce company, then I would say you should go for DSA, right?
DSA.
But if you talk about should we do this or should we do that, then I think there won't be any one way answer. It's more of what you
Exactly.
want to achieve in the end. So if you are a guy who wants to be a like better, quicker, like quick thinker, quick problem solver, then you go for quantitative trading because it's kind of sport where you get a lot of unrealistic problems and you have to come up with a hacky way to maybe using DSA, but some hack and some observations are required. That's what I feel when I did competitive programming in my colleges. But as for DSA is concerned, it's more of a problem solving without any hacks and less of an observation. It's more of it's more of a way to judge a candidate how you're gonna perform if he is working in your team, right? So
Right.
if he's able to like when we just do the DSA thing to understand how you are able to come up with a solution and how you're writing the code. So that's the parameter that we use to check. If you are able to make me understand why you did this and why you didn't any other way, what is your logic behind to write this particular line of code over here or using this particular loop, then you are in. You are with me.
Right.
Yeah.
That's nice. Rajat over here has asked that how to actually prepare for system design. Like if you can elaborate how to prepare LLD and how to prepare HLD, what importance do they have? So this is a question.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, great question, Rajat. But obviously, it's not something that you can, I guess, just learn. But you can learn, but you won't be at par level that is required to get better. Because in industry, the actual thing that we do, it's very much different than the theories that we learn over there. Okay. So unless and until you are able to understand that concept from someone who have actually built a system or built that particular thing, just learning the theories and tools and knowledge of it won't be that much helpful. So obviously you can refer a lot of resources. Maybe you can come up with something on your own in the interview as well. So obviously you need to have the fundamental understanding of the uh, blocks that we have, like consistency, load balancing, congruency, all this stuff, and scalability. But still, knowing the just the terms and the definitions would not be enough to crack the interview cycle.
Right, right. And because did you use some resources like people these days are focusing on
Mhm.
solving lead code. Some competitive programmers
Mhm.
are doing code forces, code chef. So did you use any these kind of resources to improve your problem solving skills?
Yeah, obviously, like any other software engineer candidate, I was not any different. So when I was my college with my friends, we used to do we used to do code share, we used to like do the competitive programming thing over there. I think lead code was not that much popular at that point of time. So I got introduced to lead code after year of working, right? So and
Right.
like before that, I was already a part of Scale Academy. So I got to know about lead code after Scale Academy. So I pretty much relied on Scale Academy. So when in the first year that I joined, right? So I had a first-hand experience what Scalar is and what the kind of course material that they provide. So when the second time that I had to join again, I didn't have to have any second thought. I was very much clear that I knew what Scalar does and what is the kind of opportunity that it provides and what went wrong the last year that I need to avoid in the next time. Right. So I was very much clear on that. So that's why I thought I will not repeat the same mistake that I did in my college. So like most of the college students at this point of time or at that point of time, they used to gather a lot of resources from different sites, from different places, but they rarely learn any of them. At least I was one of them. That I had my own YouTube, like personal YouTube, like due to the bandwidth limit till that point of time, Geo was not there, obviously. So I used to download all the YouTube channels like Tushar Roy and Programming with Code and other programming buddy and all that we had. So I used to download all that videos and save it in my personal laptop so that I can watch it. But unfortunately, I never watched any other video in my whole college time. So I think just gathering resources is not enough. Let if you have only one single resource site and if you rely on that, that will help you a lot better instead of gathering resources from multiple sites. So for me, it was Scalar. I relied on Scalar completely, and I do use LeetCode sometimes. Even right now, I use LeetCode, but LeetCode I use as a testing platform. So whatever I learned at Scalar, I just used to check whether it is still in my memory or not. Have I forgotten something, or do I need to brush up the topic that I've learned already? So LeetCode is just an additional tool for me.
Right, right. So as you said that you relied mostly on the Scalars curriculum, so I ask you that how did you like the community in Scalar, right? So how did you like your mentors? How was your teachers, and what are all the things that you learned from them? And why do you think that Scalar actually shaped you to
Mm-hmm.
make that transition into a product-based company and ace those technical interviews?
Right. Man, to be really honest, whatever I am at the moment, it's all because of Kela. If it was not for Kela, I don't think. I could have reached to the place that I'm at, but I don't think it would have been possible within 2 years of span. It could have taken more than five for sure. I'm a kind of guy who doesn't give up soon, right? But I'm damn sure, like, if whatever magic I would have done, I wouldn't have able to manage it this soon. So obviously, Scalar provided me the right track that I needed. I knew I always need to put efforts. But the only power superpower that I had, I was always open to put efforts. Let it be burning extra midnight oil or let it be spoiling the weekends to learn. I was okay to do that, but I needed a track, and Scalar provided me that track. And as if you talk about community, we have very great mentors. We have very great instructors for that. Matlab, if you have any kind of doubt, just ping them over Slack, and today or tomorrow they're gonna get back to you for sure, right? And like I had a very great mentor, Naman, and he was a deep learning engineer at Geo. Right now he's at Jupiter, and like he's a research engineer over there. And even at this point of time, if I face any kind of doubt, any kind of query with my professionally or even at personal level, I do reach out to him, and he's just a call away. Like he's always so available for me whenever I need him. So yeah, I'm very glad to have being a part of this community.
Right. So as you said that you were working when you joined Scalar and you started preparing to transition to switch to a product-based company. So there's a
Right.
question that how to manage the preparation while working,
Mhm.
while with your current job and managing your
Mhm.
studies. So will you please elaborate
Right.
that how did you actually manage your time to do that?
Sure. So, uh, believe me or not, like COVID acted as a very helpful thing for that because in when I was working in Nagaro, I had to travel around 6 hours of a day, and that was one of the reasons I was not able to give enough time to scale learning during that, right? But when I joined Unisu Labs and when COVID happened, right? So now the whole work from home scenario is there, and I didn't have to travel any longer. I didn't have to do any commute. So I used to save that commute time to my learning. So my job time was from 9:30 to 6:30, and some way or the other I was able to complete the task that was being assigned to me within that time. Otherwise, I didn't have to spend extra second apart from a job work. So thanks to that and thanks to the commute time that we saved due to COVID, I was able to invest my whole concentration and time into the learnings that I wanted to do. So that's how I did basically.
Right, right. So, as you are saying that it was a very fruitful journey, I can hear from your words that it was a very fruitful
Yeah,
journey with Scalar
right.
for you. Right, right. So, basically, what are all the extra features that actually help you? Like, there are mock interviews, there is a resume
Mhm.
assistant, there is a placement for, there is
Right.
support for placements. So, how all
Mhm.
that actually work for you?
Got it. So one of the major thing that I would like to highlight is the TS, what to say, the HR support kind of the person who gets connected with you regarding your interview. So it's not like that you have to apply somewhere and then you get a call and then you get processed from automatic Python. So I have been assigned a single HR and she gets connect to me and she asks me like, hey Vikas, there is an opening at Make Friday, whether you're interested or not. And I just have to give my consent whether I'm interested or not. That's it. That's what my job is. And rest all things are being taken care of by Cadre here. And finally, the scaler HR will get connect to me and they share this interview link directly. Matlab, talking about ability also taken care by the Pranjali. So the Pranjali was a lady name and she was my HR in April 2021 and she used to take care of all that. So that is one of the like very positive thing that I feel. Apart from that, I would like to highlight the TA support that we have. Like it was like at that point of time we had the TA session. Now it becomes TA support. So there is this two TAs I know the name. They were Spurs and Chetan. So they were damn good explainers. Like they're damn good communicators basically. They are good coders for sure, but they're damn good communicators. So, like even though they are juniors, luckily same when they are juniors to me, and but they have very good understanding the kind of they knew actually what they are doing. So I think that is the TS mode and the HR mode are the very plus thing if you talk about at Scala. Plus you obviously will get a mentor. Fun fact, like I am a mentor as well as Scala. So I joined like I got connected to Scala again in March 2022 and I'm a mentor right now. And right now there are 6 students and I'm a mentorship as well. So hi to my mentees over there. So that's
Great,
that.
great, great, great. So basically, because one more question is over here that I already have a job that pays me well. Why should I join Scala? So can you tell me that if a person takes a course
Mhm.
from Scala and he
Mhm.
gets placed from Scala, what is
Mhm.
the hike or what is actually basically what are all the benefits that one can have to get a
Mhm.
job after joining Scala?
Right. So actually you should join Scala not because to look for better money. You should join Scalar to upskill yourself. That's what Scalar is for. Getting a better job, getting paid at a better organization are the perks of it. That comes as additional things. The main thing that you get out of Scalar is that you become a better person. So I am someone who is not able to solve a reversal of single linked list in an interview. And right now I am talking about tries and I'm taking interviews on graphs and all. So I have come a very long way, I think. So that's what it gets you the skills. And if you have the skills, you get the benefits of it. So I think the skills that I got from Scalar that played out to have other things that I have at the moment.
Right. So basically, join Scalar to upskill yourself.
Mhm.
Right. So that's basically that should be your goal to upskill yourself. It
Yeah,
doesn't matter that how much you earn or not. This
yeah,
basically Scalar is a platform to upskill yourself, and after you have upskilled yourself, basically the sky is the limit for you. Right.
Mhm.
So yes, Vikas. So now,
it's HLD asks for a candidate with 4 years experience.
right, right, right.
So like yeah, they do. Actually, strangely enough, when I was interviewing for Flipkart and 1LG, when I had around close to 2 years of experience, right? So they did ask me HLD and NLD over there. So it actually depends the kind of role that you're applying for. So it doesn't depend on the experience. It depends the kind of role. So if you're targeting for SD1, maybe you will not be asked at most of the first. But if you're targeting for senior roles, expect HLD basis over there for sure. So that is that.
Right, right, right. How DSA system design play a key role for a web developer compared to a software developer?
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So yeah, matlab, you have to get the technical definition right. Like what is the difference between software developer and web developer? So I write API. So am I a software developer or am I a web developer? I'm not sure on that part. But I think no matter what kind of developer you are, DSA and system design plays a very key role to get the problem solving skills. So let's say tomorrow you have to learn something new, right? Maybe like even if we talk about in the developer part, like there is Golang, there is Java, there is Python, right? So if you are good at one particular domain and tomorrow you have to work on some other domain, maybe due to reasons of your own or maybe due to the company's demanding. So unless and until you are a good problem solver, you may not be able to pick it up and you will not be able to do it. So I think practicing DSA and learning about system design helps you to understand the existing thing in the world or in the technical domain a better. So just a short, small event I would like to share. So when I joined Make My Trip, right? So after joining few months, we came this task of AWS VPC migration, right? And I need to come up with like we needed some code which handles profiles according to IAM rules that we have. And strangely enough, no one has ever done that code yet. So we didn't had anything to look for. So I became the first guy who went to the docs and like found out what is the code sample to do it. So I did it in Python for my log, and then I became the point of contact for all the people. So now if they want to do any kind of Python like that, they connect with me and like I would like to help them out. So that's how it is. So I think that happened. Like I don't have the fear of learning something new at this point of time because I know it at the base level they are nothing but just codes written by some people with some understanding. So if I'm able to align with that mindset, like in what way he thought and he or she thought, and if I can understand a bit, I can be able to read the code as well, and I can use it according to my need.
Great, great, great. So Venkatesh over here has asked that which is better to choose in the following options. Better to
Mm-hmm.
join a small job with
Mm-hmm.
minimum skills, then improve
Mm-hmm.
our skills on the job, or to try for top
Mm-hmm.
companies from the first hand itself.
Okay. Okay. Wait. Join a small job with minimum skills. Minimum skills to best and try for top companies. Like why we do like acha okay he meant like if you have somewhat skills at the moment and you join based on that skills or uh, like improve your skills first and do go for the better thing. So I think on personal level I would go for the second one because I know that if I join a job with the skills that I have, right, I won't be able to improve myself because I'll be getting something out of it, right? So if I'm already by default, I'm dividing my focus. And if I'm dividing my focus, I'm not improving at the rate that I should have. So if you like start to work on skills first, obviously you're gonna grow at a double rate, right? So if you're not doing any other job and you're not dividing your focus, and you completely do your focus on your skills, so the final result that you are expecting would be much better in the second case as compared to the first
Right, right, right. Exactly. Again, so the next question is, what are the websites that we can use for
one.
competitive coding?
Yeah, so matlab, अपन code process like I'm a very big code process fan. So I was in the community and all. So I used to mostly love code process, the long challenge that we had. It was really fun to have some competitive environment in the college. So it was for that. So I
Right,
mostly
right.
rely on code process, but apart from that, we do have code chef and other thing as well.
Yeah, we have CodeChef, Codeforce. These are the top
Hmm.
two websites for competitive programmers out there.
Right,
Right.
right, right.
How did you prepare for LLD? So, any suggestions or tips on lower level design?
Yeah, matlab, I told you, man. I didn't want for anything else apart from scalar course. So the class that the instructors took, I just relied on that. And apart from that, like I used to read for so LLD also improves the design patterns and the way you write code, right? So, matlab, maybe fortunate enough, I get confused when I use undescriptive variable names. So since my college days, I used to like make it very clear the function names of variable names and all that stuff. So I used to read on this standard coding formats that we have for the language that we use, right? So since I was some more of a Python guy, so I always used to follow the fifth standards that we have for Python. So that some way helped to do well in my LLD rounds.
Right. Next question we have that can I get job referrals through Scalar? What is the concept of referrals in Scalar?
Okay. So yeah, obviously, matlab, as I said, like if you try to improve your skills, and if you have that kind of skills, Scalar helps you to get the job opportunities in the end when you are done with your TSA, like when you are done with the TSA tag. So they refer, like they share your resume to the corresponding organization through the HRs, and if they found suitable, like if your resume got shortlisted for the particular role, then the corresponding organization HR gets connected to you directly. So that's how that happens. And let me like again reiterate the same thing, like CP and CP and this interview thing are two different things, right? So you may not my when I did CP, I never had the chance to get into linked list in the first place. I was able to solve the arrays questions and string questions, but I never went to linked list because I didn't had that knowledge yet, right? And when I learned about linked list, and then when I got the interview, I was not able to I was able to come up with the logic, but I was not in a good state to write the code for it to reverse the language. So that's what happened. I hope like it makes things clear for you.
Right. That makes
Yeah.
it clear. Is it okay? So they
What happened with me? If I haven't learned, my problem solving was not improved. So if you really learn and if you really try to solve the problems on your own, then you will feel confident for sure.
right, exactly. So if you can tell Omkar that what are the topics that he should focus on from first, right, to actually improve his problem solving because he's not feeling confident to sit in the
Mm-hmm.
interviews. So, what are actually all the
Right.
topics that are mostly as in the interviews? Like if we talk about DSA, there are so many
Mm-hmm.
topics, right? There are
True.
arrays, strings, trees, graphs,
Mm-hmm.
queues,
Mm-hmm.
and linked list, hash maps. There are so many things. So, what do
True.
you think that are they? Does every topic have the same weightage, or there are some more weightage given to some specific topics?
Yeah. I wish we had some create as like some magical formula to reduce that out. But it totally depends on the interviewer who is taking the interview. So being for me, it is like most of a graph kind of thing. So I just as a candidate a graph question, and he tries to solve that and use that. I was able to judge him better. So it mostly lies on which area of expertise is the interviewer is good at.
Interviews.
And there are a lot of in my whole like I have given around 60 plus interviews in my whole career journey in the 3 years. So the thing that I said most of the times what happens is the interviewer asks you like what is your strength is. So whatever topic that you suggest, they're gonna ask questions on that to like judge you in your best form, and then they take the call whether you should be moved to the next round or not.
Right. So there is no magical formula, right?
No, it's not.
So that
But if we have to rely on some numbers, just to help the guys out, if we have to rely on some numbers, try to focus more on graph, trees, and tree trees. But obviously, DP is the toughest thing, toughest one to crack, but it's like very important.
very important. Having 10 plus years experience in service-based company, worked on everything but never worked on my DSA skills. Even I have fear to start on DSA.
Yeah, matlab, I feel like crying for them, man. Matlab, I really feel that because today only I had a session with same kind of guy, and he has like he also had a decade of experience, and he wanted to move into different field. Okay, the story is slightly different. He had decade experience, but he was not into the IT field at the moment, and he wanted to do it. So he's starting from right now. So yeah, the mentor matlab, everything is you have the fear till the point you have not start. So the moment you get start and the moment you get familiar with it, right, the fear will be gone.
Right. So
I won't say it's gonna take
it's
more than
actually
5 to 6 months
important
for that.
to just get started, right? So
Yeah,
that you can. Yeah, exactly. So if you will keep thinking about it, that okay, one day I will
mm,
start, and you will think that okay,
right,
DSA is stuff, system design is stuff. So you
right.
actually won't be able to
Mm,
ace all these topics, right? So you just need
yeah,
to start from somewhere and. Going further, you will get the knowledge that you require.
yeah.
That's correct. So if a person with 5 years experience in a firm have 20 LPA package and a fresher with zero experience but have as much as knowledge as first person, can second person have same package as first person?
Okay.
Okay. So if you want to take this up, Vikas,
Mhm.
I mean,
Yeah,
totally
matlab,
okay.
if you have to answer one word, yeah, it is. It is. It is totally the way because it doesn't matter. So, like, think it in this logical way, according to me. So, like, if I'm a recruiter and there are two, this all 5 years guy and 3 years experience guy is there, and I'm taking interviews of both of them, right? So, what will matter for me? I would just check whether the particular candidate is able to solve my problem or not, right? And if he or she can, I will get her in. And if or she can't, it won't, right? So obviously that matters. But like as far the compensation is concerned, that is more of a different game being played by HRs and other things. So I'm not the right guy to answer it. So about the
And
compensation, but yeah,
what
for
I just want to add one more thing over here, that what I just feel that there is one difference only with this
Mhm.
particular comparison is that if you have experience, your probability of getting shortlisted becomes a little good, right? And if you're
Mhm.
a fresher, that is something
Mhm.
that when even when
Right.
I was a fresher, I was applying to different
Mhm.
companies. I was not
Mhm.
getting shortlisted. But now, as I
Right.
have 1 2 years of experience, now when I send some resumes to some
Mhm.
recruiters, then I get shortlisted for those roles.
That's
So yeah,
true. That's
experience matters, but
mhm.
yes, the compensation thing is altogether a different game. Right,
Right.
right,
Right. And
right,
this thing
right.
is somewhat related to the question that this thing asked with Dharmendra. So it's just about matter of start. So like the same way we feel about DSA, the recruiters feel about freshers. Like, should we give him chance or not? Should we like time out or not? And whether you're gonna join or not. So all that things come to the picture. So
Right.
that's
So
why that's the different
yeah.
comparison.
Exactly. So, Sonak Pramanik here is asking that for getting into Make My Trip as
Mhm.
SDE1, is it necessary to have knowledge of any particular tech stack, or I can get there
Mhm.
with just DSA or system design? So, is
That is what I,
development important, or just DSA and system design will do?
so development is important, but to get into like to crack the interviews, even if you don't have up to the par development skills, you are good to go. Matlab, being a fresher, obviously we don't expect the freshers to have the development skills, right? But if you are some experienced guy who has already worked on some domain, we expect you to know the knowledge on it, right? So if you have worked at some firm, you should know what you have worked on, what are the things that you are doing. So in that terms, development is important. But if you are a fresher, I would like you can just easily join as an SD with say DSN system because you can learn the actual development thing after you join here, right? I think matlab, that's how we do the judgment.
Right, exactly. So, right, correct. I totally agree with that. So, guys, what are the tech stacks that you are currently working upon? If you can share them, share about a little, that what work are you handling in Make My Trip?
Yeah. So I'm a hardcore Pythonista. So like I have started learning Python from second year of my college, and take it as plus or minus. Like I have been stuck with Python for the past 6 years, including the college time. So all this my 3 years of experience have been completely Python. But the good part is like I have the opportunity to explore different domains. So I started working with machine learning initially in my like at Nagaro. Then I moved into data engineering and data analysis at the startup, and I'm into backend at the moment. So at Make My Web, I am a backend Python developer. So I write APIs in Django. So we use Python Django for that. Apart from that, the tools and tech stack that I have a little bit of touch is MongoDB is there, and we use AWS, we use Celery, and other common tools and techs that we have in the form.
All right. So, we have one more question that the course is too expensive. There are
Mhm.
similar courses at lesser price. So, why should we
Mhm.
choose Scalar?
Okay, why should I? So I'm not sure why you should choose Scalar, but let me tell you my reason why I choose Scalar. So since I have gone through the first-hand experience in the first year, right? So now I knew what Scalar is, and I have already seen the course and videos that will be provided by other organizations as well. So I knew that as well. But the major thing that helped me to take the call is the final result. Got it. So, matlab, after getting selected from Scalar at Make My Dev, I have rarely seen someone from some different firm getting an offer from Make My Dev, or the kind of ties and bonds that Scalar has with other organizations. I'm really finding that out in anywhere else, I guess. Like at Atlassian, Association, this great organizations. Like I can see on some like on a weekly basis, someone is getting this this from Scalar, right? So I think that was the call that was the thing that helped me to take the call. I have to go with Scalar.
Any recommended projects? Yes, I was actually trying to talk to you about projects. that what is the importance of good projects in your resume, and then you can take forward this question that any recommended project for a fresher with knowledge of MERN stack and Python and DSA and DBMS.
Okay. So okay, so the thing that the projects that I have in my resume, like strangely enough, they were all into machine learning.
All
Because
right.
when I graduated from college, I was morely focused that I want to get a job as a data scientist or somewhere in the data field. So I used to do a lot of this common projects that we have, like gender classification, Twitter sentiment analysis, and like news web link crawler. So whatever I did, like that were the projects that still is being mentioned in my resume. But still, all things said, the if from the interview perspective, what matters about the project is like how good you are with the topic. So make it anything, build anything that you want. Just make sure you are very strong on it. So we can talk about like if you can make the in, interview interesting based on that particular project. So that is a good project to have. You can
Right. So
try to
as
like
yes. Please go ahead.
yeah. So Venkatesh, if you want to try to like you can look for the LLD rounds being asked by these firms, and you can try to make them as a project. So just to give you a hint, I was being asked to create Splitwise with some of the features at one of the very good firms. So I made that as my project. So it is available in my GitHub. So I made that project in a day and like I submitted it and I got selected for that round. And I like that is my as a that is being selected as a project for my resume as well. So you can do something like that.
Right. So, as Venkatesh, you have asked specifically about MERN stack. So, I've been
Mhm.
working with JavaScript for around 1.5 to 2 years right now. So, just I'll suggest you if you are starting with creating projects. So, I will say that start small, but slowly you can actually raise the bar, right? So, if you are starting with the MERN stack, I will suggest that first you actually learn JavaScript, then you can go to DOM. Directly don't go into MERN stack. That was a mistake that I did when I was learning web development, because going to a particular framework before actually learning the language that it is upon, you will be doing yourself a little that can create a negative impact, because you will not understand basically how this framework is working. So before going to one stack, first thing is JavaScript. Then you should actually learn about DOM, HTML, CSS. First, clear your basics with them. Create some small projects with using JavaScript, HTML, CSS. Then you can move on to taking up frameworks like React, which is basically a part of one stack. Then you can move to Express, Node.js Express, and then you can try and you can use MongoDB to basically use as databases, right? So that's what I will suggest you if you're starting with Monstack. And REST, Python, and DSA, Vikas has already told you about
Yeah.
that, right?
Yeah,
So
just to add a bit more on that, Vinal,
sure.
just to add a bit more on that, like it's very similar to what we are looking over here. So instead of trying to acquire skills on different domains, like Mon, Django, Spring Boot, Hibernate, try to learn fundamentals first. So if you're good at fundamentals, you can pick up any tool, any technology that you want anytime. But you need to be good at fundamentals in the initial. So I think that's what you
Exactly.
meant when you said that before one you should focus on JavaScript, right?
Yeah. That's what I was. That's what I meant basically. That before going to any framework, picking up any library, just learn the fundamentals
Yeah.
first. Then you can easily work with all those, right? Because there is React, there is Angular, there is Vue, there is everything that is going on with JavaScript, right? But
Yeah.
the base is JavaScript. So first, get good with JavaScript, then you can pick up anything.
To begin with, I want to talk about what kind of tech interviews are there, what kind of companies are there to begin with. So I would say there are mainly two type of companies. One is a service-based company, and uh, other is a product-based company. So first of all, like we see a mad rush going towards like product-based companies. We see people blindly following that we want to get into product-based company without actually knowing what is the difference between these two companies. So to quickly talk about the most basic difference is that service-based companies are those companies which are actually creating tools and services for a different company. Okay, those are there. So for example, let's suppose SBI needs some product. So they will reach out to these companies and they'll say that I want you to give me this small feature, small system, and I want you to create that. So these service-based companies, they create their product and then they deliver it to their clients. For example, let's say Lufthansa is a company and it wants an app which can be specifically used by their pilots. So Lufthansa will reach out to service-based company and get the products created, get the system created, and that system can be delivered by these companies. So service-based companies are regularly delivering products one after the other, and they have a lot of clients and they create products for them. Now, a product-based company has one product and they will keep on reiterating. They will be keep on working to get the best out of that product. So that is the difference between a service-based company or a product-based company. For example, if I talk about Amazon, Amazon engineers are working on that one singular product, which is Amazon. And similarly, if I talk about Scalar is also a company which is working on one product, right? Scalar has one product and all the engineers are working to improve that product. So, Scalar is also a product-based company. Along with that, Amazon is also a product-based company. The only difference would be scale on which people are working on it. Amazon, there is a greater scale, and at Scalar, you would slowly and steadily go through all the processes, and it's still in the growing phase. So there are two kinds of product-based company. One is a big corporate, and other are you can say fast-growing startups or the companies who are growing, but right now they are working at a at a scale less than the big corporates. Okay, so perfect. Right. Let me just put it this way. Okay, just give me a moment. So, given that we now understand what is the basic difference between the service-based and product-based company, now the next thing that I want to talk about is what differentiates between like service-based company and product-based company. Why do people prefer going into a product-based company, right? So there are majorly two major parameters why somebody would prefer a product-based company more than a service-based company. So one is the work that we do over there. So in a service-based company, you would be continuously iterating over different projects, right? You have just completed one project, then you would be shifted to another project. Like there are a lot of clients that they are catering to. So if you have closed one project, you will be quickly moved on to other project, and you would not have a great learning curve. Like you would be continuously switching between different projects. And apart from that, like there would be a lot of ready-made products. So like you would have payment gateways that would be already built in, that would be already ready. There would be a lot of components that would be already ready. So most of the time, what you are doing is you are stitching all these things together and delivering to a client. Right? Whereas in a product-based company, you will slowly and steadily try and see that the same product is built iteratively. You would work on interesting problems to solve, interesting problems that are yet to be solved. You will pick up those problems and you will work on scale, right? You will see that the same product is growing with scale, more and more users are coming, and you would see that a lot of problems come with scale. So you would have to deal with that. So in dealing with these problems, you come across quality problems. So that is one major difference. The work we do is one major difference why people try to they try to go towards product based company. Second is the return that we get. By return I mean like return could be anything, right? Like it could be skills and it could be the salary also. So with skill also you would get some better skills since you are working on better problems, since you are working on scaled problems. So you would be requiring greater skills to solve them. So in return to working on quality problems, you would get better skills. And the second thing is because your time is so valued, because you are working on a product. So if I'm creating anything in a product, right? For example, let's suppose I'm creating anything in Scalar. So that part would live, right? The shelf life of that part that I've created would basically live on for next 4 or 5 years. Whereas if I have created a product for a client in a service-based company, so it would not be that long. I've created a product. I just have to make sure that it gets delivered to the client successfully, right? So over here, my time and my efforts would be valued more. In product-based company, my efforts would be valued more. My time would be valued more. So that's why the salary that we get in return, that is also most of the times it is more, right? So this is why we prefer to go in product-based company. Now, once we have understood what is the kind of companies that we interview, what are the kind of companies that come. So now let's talk about what are the type of questions that are asked, what are the type of skills that are required to get in a product-based company. So if I talk about the skills, basically I would first divide product-based company into two parts. One is a big corporate, like for example, Microsoft or Amazon or Facebook or these companies. Then there would be startups, right? For example, if I talk about QMath or if I talk about Scalar or these companies that we have, right? So the major difference between these two companies is that a big corporate have like they have time to train their resources, right? So basically, when we are going for an interview in a big corporate, they would basically be talking about problem solving skills and how do you design a product. So they would be mostly talking about your design skills. They would mostly be talking about your problem solving skills, right? Mostly they focus on these things. They would not be so much interested in knowing what tech stack you have already worked. They would not be so much interested in knowing what problems you already have solved or like what projects you've already implemented. They would be more interested in knowing if you have the right aptitude to solve the scaled problem, right? Right. So that is the major thing that is tested in big corporates. If I talk about startups, startups would basically need a person who doesn't need training, right? Who can start contributing right from the word go. So as soon as we say that, let's say that in a startup we are hiring for a person who can add backend functionalities. I am hiring a backend developer, and let's suppose the backend tech stack that I have is Ruby on Rails. So I would be specifically hiring a Ruby on Rails developer, right? We want somebody who can contribute from the word go. We don't have so much time to invest. Like for example, there is a small team in a startup. Let's suppose there are 4 or 5 people. So in that, we cannot keep 2 people or 1 people just on the part to do the training purpose or to understand the product. We cannot have that time and we cannot have that bandwidth. Okay, so you need to contribute from the word go. So that's why it's more necessary to hire somebody who is ready with the skills. So for example, the skills could be a web development, or it could be Android, or it could be data analysis, or it could be data science. You have to make sure that you are ready with the skills and you would be able to contribute from the word go. So if I talk about a big corporate or a startup, so based on the type of skills that they need, it depends on the type of interviews that would happen, right? For example, if I talk about DSA, and if I talk about in a big corporate, they would mostly be talking about DSA. They would mostly be talking about design skills, right? These are the two things that they would be needing. These are the two subjects that you would be needing to test your design skills and your problem solving skills, right? Whereas when I'm talking about a startup, they would mostly be interested on the project that you've already worked upon, right? So these are the two things that you would be majorly focusing upon, right? So right, so your interview preparation should also revolve around these two things itself, right? Just a second. Right, just a second. Okay, perfect. So your interview preparation should also revolve around these two projects, these two things only. Like for example, if you are going for your interviews, so you must make sure that you are well versed with DSA, right? So let me write about the interview prep part. So how would you be preparing? What should be the interview prep? right? So over here, I would say, right. So over here, I would say that first of all, if we are talking about DSA, so in DSA, in the problem solving part, you should make sure that you are well versed with everything that is there. So you should well versed with at least all the data structures and algorithms that are commonly asked. And right, so there are around 10 to 15 topics that we have in data structures and algorithms. So make sure that you solve at least 5 to 6 questions on each and every data structures and algorithms. You are at least in touch with all the data structures and algorithms. The most important thing that we generally deal is that we lack problem solving skills, and it is not because that we are not prepared or anything. It's because we are not dealing with data structures and algorithms day to day in our work life. So that's one major reason. So I would definitely say that you must be prepared for this part. And by preparing, I mean to say that you should have at least 10, 15. There are 10, 15 data structures and algorithms. So in every 10, 15 data structures and algorithms, you should have 5 or 6 questions with which you would be able to understand pros and cons of that data structure. Along with that, you should understand how to talk about time and space complexity analysis. That's an important thing. You should be able to analyze different algorithms, different approaches on the basis of time and space, right? Along with that, if I talk about the design part, so in the design part, you should for example, over here on the design part, you should come up with the designs. You should prepare with at least 7 to 8 design problems. For example, one of the learners that we have at Scalar, he recently gave an interview at PhonePe, and at PhonePe they asked him to design splitwise. So they asked him to. This was the machine coding round. So he had to basically give a small MVP. So there was a small like a minimum viable product he had to give. So splitwise, with the minimum features, he had to code splitwise. So these kind of design problems, I would say there are 7 to 8 design problems that you can focus on. And with the help of these 7 to 8 design problems, you would be able to see what are the different design patterns that can be applied, what are the different ways in which things can be solved, right? What are the different pros and cons that we have to look into? What are the analysis that we have to do whenever we are making a decision on what thing to take on and what to be left? Okay, so I think there are 7 to 8 questions that you can look into. And if I talk about the resources that you can look into to prepare for them, I would say LeetCode is one resource from where you can prepare DSA. Apart from that, obviously InterviewBit is another place from where you can prepare good questions, right? Everything is categorized over there, and you would be able to understand great. You would be able to see that great categorization, and you would be able to grow along with that questions, and you would become better at problem solving along the way. Okay. Similarly, if I talk about design questions, there is one website which is called Work at Tech. So this is one place from where you can see the design questions, and you would be able to understand most of the questions that are asked in interviews. So apart from these two things, one more thing, if I talk about, is the previous projects that you have worked upon. So all the previous the projects that you have worked upon, I would say be sure about them. Make sure that you understand them, and you do not fumble, or you do not know. Like, it should not be that you do not know about a particular component in a particular project. So be sure about them. Make sure that you understand all the nitty-gritties of the projects that you have made. Okay. So these would be the three things that would be involved in the preparation phase. So I would say design, DSA, and projects. These will be three things that you should work upon to be perfectly prepared for the interviews. Apart from that, one more thing that we have seen is mock interviews is another thing that you can that can basically greatly help you. It can augment your preparation. So mock interviews is something that can help you specifically work on the places where you are a little weak. Okay, so I would definitely say that mock interviews are one thing that one should take. And in mock interviews, the other person that who is taking your interview, he would be able to specifically tell you that these are the areas where you need to work upon. And these could be anything. For example, it might be that you are not able to convey your thoughts properly, or it might be that there is a particular part that you have not prepared properly, right? It might be that the LLD part is a little weak, or it might be that you have less ideas around draft questions. So it might be anything. So a person who's taking a mock interview, he would be able to tell you beforehand that these are the areas that you need to specifically work upon. So this is the part that I would definitely say that should be this is the part that should be revolving around the interview preparation phase, right? Perfect. Okay, apart from that, right. So now what are the things that you can do which can help you during these tough times? So for example, let's suppose you are in between jobs. Okay, you are going, like you have just resigned from a position and you are looking forward to another job. So what are the things that you can do when you are in between jobs? So obviously, this is what you should prepare around. These are the things that you should have in your kitty. This is what you should prepare. Apart from this, there are mainly two things that I would recommend. First is try to have amazing resume. By amazing resume, I do not mean to say that you have to be you have to be out of the world in everything. I'm just saying that by amazing resume, I mean that there should be one section, there should be one thing that draws attention. Okay, there should be one thing which an interview sees, and he says that, okay, I want to connect with this person. I think this is the person who would be able to solve this particular thing. For example, if you have just got out of the college, probably it could be competitive programming, right? If it has been 3-4 years in the industry, probably it could be the type of projects that you have worked upon. So try to put something in your resume. There should be one thing that draws attention, that should stand you out, or that should be one thing that should be impressive about you. Okay. The second thing that you need to do is that you need to increase the number of applications that we are putting out. So we need to make sure that the applications that we are putting forward are a little high. Because every time the problem that most of us face is that we put ourselves in the preparation phase a lot more rather than putting ourselves to the interview phase. So make sure that you are applying at empty number of places, because there might be 10 no's that you might get, but you only require one yes, right? I don't want 10 yeses, or I don't want to have a plethora of offers. I just want one yes. So for that one yes, make sure that you are applying to companies. Like nowadays, there are so many companies, like Top Hire is one company, Insta Hire is another, then there is Hirist, then there is Hirect. There are so many companies that are there. There are so many job consultants that will help you, and they line up your interviews. So definitely make sure that you are putting your applications, and even you can directly contact companies. You can go to their career pages. You can apply to companies. You can even make a well layout, well thought out email. You can write a very good email, and you can put out to the people, and people will definitely reply. People will definitely suggest you what would be the best way out if they have the positions. So right, and apart from that, we of course have LinkedIn. We of course have referrals, right? So you can use any of these two things, LinkedIn or the plethora of companies that are now hiring, the plethora of job consultants who are lining up interviews with the companies. So you can use any of these two things to get yourself out there. You give the interviews, interviews also have their own learning curve. Okay, so every time it's not necessary that you would just have to you just have to prepare and you have to be ready for the interviews, and you should be able to answer each and every question. Even if you're not able to answer one or two things, you would be selected. It's not that you have to be like crystal correct. You would be perfectly correct. You would be able to answer all the questions. So it's the approach that you take to solve a particular question. And always after each interview, there would be some things that you will learn. Like for example, if you're not able to solve a particular query, you will get after the interview, you will go in the internet, you will try to search for that. What is the correct answer to this? And this is how you will slowly and steadily grow. I remember one of the learners at Scalar, he was able to get in one of the companies, but he kept going more and more interviews. With each interview, he was able to list few things that he wanted to learn, right? So with each unsuccessful interview also, he was able to list a few things that he wanted to learn, right? And like there was this one interview, there was this final interview that he was successful in getting into, and in that interview there were around 1,000 applicants, and out of that 2 were selected and he was one of them. So it was not just preparation, it was a lot of unsuccessful interviews that he has given, and from each interview he had learned something. So that is also one way. So never shy of going for the interviews, right? So that is one thing that I would definitely recommend. And right, so this is all that I wanted to talk about, how to prepare for DSA interviews, right? What are the different topics that we have? So how to prepare for DSA? Okay, so in the problem solving part, in the interviews, there would be a section called problem solving, and in that problem solving, you would be asked questions. So majorly, these are the topics that we have. You have arrays, you have strings. Then in these parts, we have some patterns also. For example, two pointers is one pattern that you have. Similarly, sliding window is another pattern that is there in arrays and strings. Then we have topics like hashing. Then we have topics like 2D arrays, which can be probably said that they are part of arrays only. Recursion is one important topic that you must not skip. Then you have linked list, you have stacks, and you have queues. And in the hierarchical kind of data structures, you have trees, and you have tries, and you have priority queues. Then apart from that, I would say DP is one other topic that you should definitely work upon, and graphs is one other topic that you should definitely solve questions on. So I would definitely say that when you're preparing for your tech interviews, make sure that you go through at least 5 or 6 questions on each and every topic, right? With the help of those 5 and 6 questions, you would be able to understand how one data structure is better than the other data structure, how to do the time and space complexity analysis, how to weigh pros and cons of different data structures, okay? And how to apply in which algorithm we need to apply which data structure, okay? So over here, let's talk about hashing today. We had done a small poll, and we can see that hashing is one topic. Hashing is one thing that you want to talk about. Okay. So if I talk about hashing specifically, hashing is an hash map, right? So in hashing, we will call about hash map. So what is the best thing about hash map, or we can call it a hash set also? Okay, so the best thing about that is it's a data structure that is provided by us to right. So it's a data structure, and in this data structure, what we can see is that searching is very efficient. So if I talk about a hash map would look something like this. It's a 2-column table. It has keys over here, and it has values over here. Okay. Now keys are unique, so they are unique. And values could be anything that can be mapped with these unique values. So now over here, the basic functionalities that are given to you is one of the functionalities that is given to you is you can add a particular element, right? Like you can add a particular element to hash map. You can delete a record. You can delete a particular element from the hash map. The next thing that you have is the best thing that I like is that you are able to search in hash map, right? Irrespective of what is the size of the hash map, how much like irrespective of whatever is the size of the hash map, you would be able to search in order one, right? The average case would be to search order one, right? Delete also happens in order one. Add is also something that happens in order one. So that's the most beautiful thing that we have with hash maps, that we would be able to search through the entire records, and we would be able to search through it in a time complexity of order one, right? It's same as accessing a particular element in the array, right? So if you want to access a particular element in the array, you don't have to go through the entire list. You can directly jump and you can directly go to that particular field. You can directly go to that particular element. Similarly, in the hash map also, if you want to search, it directly gives you the result. So that's why we say that the time complexity is order one. So today we want to take up a question on hashing that is regularly asked in interviews. Okay, so this question is longest consecutive sequence. The question that I want to take up is longest consecutive sequence, and this question is asked in many interviews. So it's one of the favorite questions that is asked by interviewers, and the best part is that they give you expected time and space complexity. They will give you target time and space complexity. So first, let me explain this question, and then I'll talk about in what time complexity, in what time you have to solve this question. Okay. So first of all, what we have to do is you are given an array of n integers over here. You are given an array with n integers. You have to find the longest consecutive sequence. You have to find that sequence which has the longest consecutive sequence. For example, let's suppose if you have 9 over here, 10 over here, then 1, let's suppose you have 2, let's suppose you have 3, then you have 5, then let's suppose 6, then you have 13, then you have 12, and let's suppose over here, let's keep somewhere 11 as well. Let's keep 11 as well over here. Okay. So over here, you can see a lot of consecutive sequences. For example, if I talk about one consecutive sequence is 1, 2, and 3. Starting from 1, you can see that there is a consecutive sequence of length 3. Then another consecutive sequence you can see which starts from 5. This sequence is of length 2. But what is the biggest consecutive sequence that we have? So biggest consecutive sequence that we have is starting from 9 and it is going all the way up till 13, and this length is 5. So over here we have to return the length of the longest consecutive sequence, and the answer to it is 5. So this is the question. You have to find and return the length of the longest consecutive sequence. So in such a question, so where do you see that hashing would be applied in such a question? How do you find that hashing as a data structure would be the most beneficial data structure to solve this problem? So over here we see that the values are very, I would say they are kept in random order, and we would have to basically see a sequence over here, right? Values are kept in random order. Over here we can see that 9 is over here, then we can see that 10 is over here, then 11 is over here, 12 is over here, 13 is over here. There is no random order. So even if I want to search elements over here, so let's say that I am searching from 9, then the next element that I have to search is 10, which is just ahead of it. But next element that I have to search is 11. So for that, I would have to iterate on the entire array. Like I have to search where is 11, right? If 11 is over here, then if I have to find 12, then it would be very difficult to find 12. Similarly, if I want to find 13, then it would be difficult to find 13. You would have to go through the entire list. You would have to go through the entire array to find the correct element. You have to find the next element. Okay, so searching needs to be efficient. So over here, which is the data structure which provides the most efficient searching? So the answer to this question is arrays. Sorry, the answer to that is hashing. Hash map is one data structure which provides you the most efficient searching, which is order one searching. So over here we will apply and we will use the facilities and the functionalities that are provided by hash map. So to solve this question, what we will do is we will put all these elements in a hash map. So in first step, what we are going to do is we are going to put all elements in a hash map. Put all elements in a hash map. So I'll create a hash map and I'll put all these elements in hash map. And hash map has two structures to it. Hash map has two structures to it. So they have two columns to it. The first column needs to have all the values unique, which is the key, and the second is value, which can have duplicate values. So over here, what I'm going to do is I am going to put all the elements in a hash map, and over here the key is going to be array element. Array of I is going to be the key, and value is going to be a boolean value. Okay. In the beginning, I am going to put false in front of all the values. So over here, how this structure is going to look like, I am going to say, I'm going to put all the values. For example, 11, 9, 10, then I'll put 1, 2, 3, then I'll put 5 and 6, then I'll put 13 and I'll put 12. And in front of all these values, in the beginning, I'll put false. Right? So I just want to make sure that all the elements are there in the hash map. And right now in the beginning, the value does not have any significance. So in front of them, everywhere I have written false. Right? Now, if I want to find the longest consecutive sequence, then where should I start from? What would be the most important element that I have? Where should my searching start from? Answer to that is starting element of each sequence. For example, one starting element is 1. So I should be interested in 1. After I have 1, then the sequence would be easy to propagate. I would be easily able to find 2. Then from 2, I'll easily be able to go to 3, right? So on and so forth. Okay. Right. I will quickly try to see. Right. Perfect. So starting element is the most important thing that we need to understand. Okay. Then after starting element, we would be able to find the complete sequence. So over here, what are the starting elements? One starting element would be 1. The other starting element that I have is 5. And other starting element that I have is 9. So for me, the point of interest, for me, the element of interest is the starting element. If I have the starting elements, I would be able to find the longest consecutive sequence. I just need to know what is the length of the sequence that is starting from 1. What is the length of the sequence that is starting with 5? What is the length of the sequence that is starting with 9? And this way, I would be able to tell you what is the longest sequence with respect to all the starting elements that I have. Okay, perfect. So now let's try to find the starting elements. So how do you find a starting element? That's the first question. How do you find the starting element? Can I say that try searching for each and every element, right? Starting element would be that element which would not have array of I minus 1, which would not have its predecessor. Okay, so what is the starting element? So starting element would be that element which would not have its predecessor. So if you have 9, 9 is a starting element because you do not have 8 in the array, right? So first of all, what I'll do is I'll try to mark those elements which do not have its predecessor. I'll try to mark the starting elements. Okay, perfect. So now the second step would be to mark the starting elements. Okay, so mark starting elements. So let's say mark starting elements. So for marking starting elements, what you have to do is, let me take this hash map that we have created over here. The only thing that you have to do is, you have to specifically ask uh, which are those elements which does not have its predecessor. Okay, so over here, if I talk about 11 has its predecessor, right? Then 9 does not have its predecessor, so I will mark it true, right? So I am marking something different in front of starting elements. Similarly, 10 has its predecessor, 9 is already there in the hash map. 1 does not have its predecessor, so this is a starting element. 2 has its predecessor, 3 has its predecessor, 5 does not have its predecessor, so this would be equal to true. Then 6, 13, 12, everybody has their predecessors, so I would say that these are the 3 starting elements that you have got, right? Then what I'll do is, the third step, I will start with each of these starting elements and I'll try to calculate what is the length of their sequence. What is the length of their sequence? That is what I'm going to do with that. Okay, so I am going to iterate once again. So first of all, I'm going to go to 11. I'll go to 11 first, right? Is there a point to start with 11? So 11 is not a starting element, so I will definitely not start with 11. 11 is not a starting element. Then I'll go to 9. Okay, 9 is a starting element. So from 9, I will try to find its sequence. Length of its sequence is equal to 1. From 9, I will move to 10. 10 is also there in the hash map. The length is going to become 2. From 10, I'll move on to 11. 11 is also there in the sequence. So I will increase the size of the sequence further. From 11, I'll move on to 12. From 12, since 12 is also there in the sequence, I'll increase the length. From 12, I'll move on to 13. 13 is also there in the sequence. I'll increase the size of the sequence to 5. So over here, I can see 13 is there. So the length has been increased to 5. Now I'll say 14. Is 14 there in the sequence? 14 is not there in the sequence. So the longest sequence that can be formed by starting with 9 is 5. And we can take an overall maximum as well. So this is bigger than the overall maximum. So I can keep 5 as the maximum so far. Okay. Then we'll try to start with 10. Right? 10 is not a starting element. So we'll definitely we will definitely not start any sequence from 10. Then the next element is 1. 1 is a starting element. So we'll make a sequence from 1. 1 is also there, 2 is also there, 3 is also there, 4 is not there. So starting from 1, the longest sequence that can be formed is of length 3, right? But it will not beat the overall maximum. This will not beat the overall maximum. So that's why what we can see is that 1 has a sequence of length 3, but it is not the biggest sequence. Then we'll try with 2. 2 is definitely not a starting element, so we will ignore it. 3 is also not a starting element, we will ignore it. Then we'll find 5. 5 is a starting sequence, so we'll start with 5. From 5, we'll move on to 6. From 6, we'll move on to 7. 7 is the place where we stop. So the length of the longest consecutive sequence starting from 5 is going to be of length 2. But 2 is not the maximum length. So starting with 5, the maximum length is going to be 2. And it is not the maximum length. Perfect. So we'll move ahead. Then the next element is going to be 6, which is not a starting element. So we'll ignore it. Next element is 13. It is not a starting element. We'll ignore it. 12 is not a starting element. We will ignore it as well. Right? So over here, this is how you are going to write the code. This is how you are going to work on this problem. Right? First of all, you have to put all these elements in a hash map. Then you have to mark all the starting elements. You have to mark all these starting elements. After putting all these elements in a hash map, mark starting elements. Make sure that you change the value corresponding to starting elements. Then focus only on the starting elements. From the starting elements, try to find what is the length of their sequence. Okay, once you find length of sequence of each and every element, what we can do is we can find maximum out of them, right? So this is how you will solve this question. This is how you'll find the overall maximum out of all the sequences. Now comes the most important part, which is to discuss time and space complexity of this approach. See, we have taken an extra hash map. So definitely we have taken an extra space. We have put all the n elements of the array in an extra hash map. So definitely we are going to take space of order n. What about time complexity? In time complexity, let's see each and every element. So in the first step, over here, can I say that over here, you have put all the elements in a hash map? So n iterations would be there to put all these elements in a hash map, right? If you want to mark each and every element, to mark each and every element, the only question that you have to ask is that you are standing on array of I. Is your predecessor there or not? Is the predecessor in the hash map or not? So you are searching array of I minus 1. Searching is order 1. So you are doing this operation for each and every element. So there would be n iterations in this also. In the first step, there were n iterations. In this step also, you would have n iterations. Okay. In the third and last step, this is the most interesting step. You are iterating over each and every element. Okay. How many times? What is the maximum number of times you are iterating over an element? If I talk about 13, okay. So how many times you have iterated over 13? Can I say that you have iterated over 13 two times? One when it was visited by 9, right? And one when it was visited by the external loop. If I talk about 11, how many times you have iterated over 11? One when it was visited by external loop, and one when it was visited by the sequence of 9. So can I say each and every element is visited two times? Can I say each and every element is visited at max two times? So definitely I can say over here the number of iterations are going to be 2n, right? Right. So over here, I can say the total number of iterations would be n for the first step, n for the second step, and 2n for the last step. Total number of iterations are going to be 4n, and the time complexity is going to be order n. Over here, it should not be I minus 1. It should be array of I minus 1. Yes, you should search. If you are standing at array of I, you should search for array of I minus 1. Right? So this is how you would solve this question. Right? So over here you can see that you have got a very good time complexity of big O of n, although you have utilized an extra space of n, but you were able to get a very good time complexity of order n, right? So even for the worst case also, user with the username enter.net infinity, even for the worst case also, the time complexity would be order n, right? For example, I can take your case as well. So if we talk about this case, okay, in this case, 1 is going to start and it is going to iterate on each of the elements. Okay, the length of the longest sequence for 1 is going to be 10. Right? We are going to stop at 11. So 1 is going to iterate on all these elements internally. Right? A list that is starting from 1 is going to iterate on all the elements internally. But how many times we are going to iterate on each element? So over here, we are going to iterate on 1 2 times. 2 also we are iterating 2 times. 3 also we are iterating 2 times. We will iterate on these elements externally. And we are iterating on these elements internally. See, right? We are not going to go in the internal loop for these elements. We are going to go in the internal loop only for the starting element, and only this is the starting element. So in the worst case also, we are going to iterate on each and every element only 2 times. So therefore, the time complexity would be 2n. Najmul is asking that I have learned Flutter framework. I have already learned that. I have published 3 apps on Play Store. I am trying to solve problems on LeetCode to get hired by well-known companies, but how to start approach to get hired? So I've already told you that start giving out your resumes, reach out to companies. Like there would be Hirect. You should go to Hirect. There is Hirist, then there is Top Hire, there is Insta Hire. There are IM jobs. There is Naukri, and of course we have the usual suspect. We have LinkedIn. So use any of these 7-8 sources that you have. Apart from that, there are a lot of such places also. Like for example, there is one place which is called remoteok.com. You can go to that place, and over here you will be able to get only remote jobs. So definitely Najmul, that is also one place where you can go, and you would be able to see that there are companies which are hiring specifically for Flutter framework also. Okay, so that is one thing that you can do. And definitely, if I talk about the companies which are hiring on Flutter framework, you would be able to show your apps, and you would definitely be able to go past the selection criteria, and you would be able to land on the job. Okay, perfect. Another question that we have is asked by Tushar. Tushar is saying that I am facing issues that almost all the companies are asking whether I have Java experience. I have 4+ years of experience, and I'm working on Python for the past 3 years. Right? How to tackle it? See, rather than like fighting with the companies, like to basically get into Java, like you should focus on the companies which are asking for Python. Right? You have a huge umbrella. Like you have worked on Java, right? You have probably worked on Java a little bit, I think. No, you are saying that you have an experience of 4+ years, and for the past 3 years you are working on Python. So definitely there are companies which are asking for Python skills as well, right? So you should hone more. You should hone more of your Python skills. You should start solving problems on Python. You should start building projects on Python, right? You should do all your learning around Python, given that you have your strength areas. Your strength area is your Python skills, right? And you should only apply for companies who are asking for Python developers, right? So I think you are not applying to enough number of companies. That is one thing that I might say, because there are companies that they need Python people as well. And there are plethora of companies which hire people just on the basis of their problem solving skills, just on the basis of their design skills, which take language agnostic interviews, which do not keep this barrier of hiring on a particular language. So you should search more, you should make efforts more, you should start applying more. The number of applications that you are making, they should go high, and you would be able to go past this problem, right? So, right, so this is one thing that I wanted to talk about, right? Okay, one last question that we have is from a user with the username enter.netinfinity. So he's saying that all the elements that we have talked about, they in the problem solving question, all the elements that we have over here, these are starting elements. No, these are not starting elements. Starting element is that element for which predecessor element is not present. So definitely for 1, we do not have 0. Okay, but for 2 we have 1. For 3 we have 2. For 4 we have 3. So therefore, like, these are not the starting elements. There is only one starting element over here, which is 1. I hope that answers your question. Right. Rituraj has a question. Rituraj is asking, do we need to have a good CP profile or DSA? Is it enough for interviews? See, as I told you about that, if somebody is coming, like if resume is coming to me, I have to answer this question, right? I have to basically, I would be searching for one skill, right? for that, I would like to connect with that person. So if somebody is giving me a resume, I will just go through it. I'll scan the entire resume and I'll try to see that one thing that will draw my attention, that would basically make me say that let's connect with this person. This person would be helpful, useful for us. So Rituraj, definitely, if you are looking for DSA as one of that thing that will make you stand out. So definitely having a good CP profile, having a good DSA profile is definitely going to help. Like for example, if on LeetCode you are regular, or if you are giving regular interviews, regular contests on CodeChef or on Codeforces, then definitely this is going to help you, right? So you should have that one part which can make you stand out. And definitely CP or DSA could be one talking point. It could be one such point, because most of the companies, big corporates, focus on problem solving skills, and this is the best indicator for problem solving skills. If somebody is very good at DSA, is very good at data structure and algorithms, he would have a good competitive programming profile. So this is definitely one thing that you can try out. Okay, right. Okay, so right, to talk about on hiring freeze that is happening in Meta and Amazon these days. So there is definitely, I would say, recession is around the corner. Definitely, there is a recession that might happen, but that recession is something that would happen in US, right? So that's why these companies are putting on a hiring freeze. They are going on a hiring freeze, right? For most of the companies that are based out of India, they don't have to worry that much. But this is something that is true for US based companies. Now, being said that, you would not have to worry much about this part if you have your skills in place, right? I said that you have to worry on only on two things. One is you have to make sure your preparation is top notch. The second thing that I talked about is that you should focus on giving more and more number of interviews, and you should try to make sure you have an amazing resume. You should have one thing that makes you stand out. So if you have all your checkbox checked, if you have all your things marked out, so then you would be easily able to go through that phase of getting a new job, right? Even if you come across this part where even if you come across that part where you are where you do not have a job, so going to that place, going a new job would not be that difficult. Okay, if you are correctly skilled, and if you work upon all these things that I've talked about, you make sure that you work on your DSA design skills, and make sure that you have your projects at your back of your hand. So these things you should have at your back of your hand, and you would be able to do great with your job search, with your job hunt. Okay, right. That was all that I wanted to add. Okay, right. So there is a person with the username Digital Tech, and he is saying that I have done my MCA from a tier 3 college in 2019. Till now, I was into business. Now I've started learning Java DSA from a paid platform. Can I have any chance to get into hiring? Can I get into the mainstream tech industry without having any prior experience? Definitely, you can do that. It's not a something. It's not something to be worried about. I've seen people who have come from different streams of education as well. I've seen people from BSc Physics. I've seen people from BA, and they have done paid courses, and they have been able to get into companies like they have been able to get it at startup companies at Bangalore. And I've seen such people. I've seen people transitioning. So it's just that you have to if you are very good with DSA, if you have done Java DSA, then the next thing that you should work upon is probably you should create some projects, right? So having some projects under your belt, then you would be ready to give interviews at both the places. Your problem solving skills are ready and your projects are ready. So at both the places, corporates would be needed, would be testing your problem solving skills more, and the startups would be testing your web development skills more. So the only thing that you have to work upon now, you have to create some projects, right? So I would say have some projects and then start giving out interviews. You can definitely get into good companies.